Hey y'all, Mind of Monsters, Sunshine here. So tonight we have a very special guest. We have the witness of the Jimmy Hoffa murder, the world's most famous missing case. Pinned at the top is a request to please be respectful. If you cannot be respectful, be gone. Questions will be answered at the end of the live. We'll do a question and answers. If Michael feels like hanging out and answering questions that can be answered will be answered. I appreciate everybody for being here. You guys know I wouldn't be here without you. Please be open minded and listen to his story. We're going to give him a safe place to tell us his story and what he saw and witnessed firsthand. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And guys, remember, as always, this is a safe place for families and victims. So I just ask that you mind your manners, and I do have it on subscribers mode only. That is to help with the trolls. You have to be subscribed for 1 minute in order to be able to join the chat, but I do encourage everyone to please join the chat. Please be respectful and always mind your manners. Welcome in, Michael.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
Well, been pretty good so far. Making it.
Yeah. Been kind of a lazy Sunday around here, just kind of hanging in there.
Yeah, and the Lions lost, so that made it a little bad for me today.
Oh, no. They lost. That's
Yeah,
not
that
good.
was
Got
bad.
next week.
It's like they
Yeah.
didn't even show up. But
Oh, no. I haven't watched football
they
in a
do.
long.
They're 5-2 now, so I guess they're still in the rankings.
There you go. There you go. Welcome in, everybody. Again, if you didn't catch my intro, please be respectful. Remember that we have a witness and a victim on panel, and I appreciate everybody for being here, and I appreciate you being respectful. And let's all remember our manners and use self care. This is a murder mystery and missing channel, and I don't throw out a bunch of trigger warnings. So, guys, be respectful and be respectful of yourself, and do protect yourself and your mental health. So, Michael, you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'd be glad to. I grew up in a small town called Benton Harbor, Michigan. Down in southwestern Michigan, down near Chicago. It's in the like in the Glove area, the center of it, down by Lake Michigan. And as I grew up, I experienced a lot of things in my life that traumatized me tremendously. And the Hoffa case just happened to be one of those scenarios that traumatized. And when I say traumatized, I mean literally in my soul and in my spirit, I have this vibe in my mind and in my heart and in my spirit that it just won't go away, and I feel a little relief when I come on a podcast or something and try to tell what I've experienced, and not only try to get it off my chest, but to also try to get help from the authorities, from the media, and from people like you and your podcast that can reach out to those people that might be able to, you know, do something about it, actually do something about it. So far, I haven't had any luck on that side, but hopefully after this podcast, maybe somebody will say, well, it's been a long time, and the case, this story is unique, and maybe we should look into that. That's what I'm hoping. But so far, it's been 40, I'm going 49 years now. And like I said, I kept this inside of me for 27 years. And then when I finally came forth to the Detroit FBI Alpha Task Force, it was November of 2002. So that's going on 22 years ago. Now, I feel like after 22 years of them knowing what I know, and there has been no type of results at all. I mean, not an inkling of a result. Then what does that tell me? It tells me they don't believe me. They prefer believing someone else. They might got other information somewhere out there that makes them feel like I'm not really on point. But my story tells that I was there. I was almost killed. I'm a victim. I'm a witness. And you don't see anybody that comes on any podcast or any news media or anything saying what I can say about what happened to me and what I saw. Now, if you know of anybody that's out there that can tell you something similar to mine, let me know because I'd like to hear that right now or even later. I'd like to hear that. But getting back to a history of my life, as I grew older, I graduated out of high school, got my diploma, high school diploma. I graduated 4 years out of college, bachelor's program of criminal justice. Retired from the Michigan Department of Corrections. I worked for the state of Michigan 17 years. Working in prison was a traumatic event as well, but that's behind me now. I did what I had to do to keep those individuals under control and incarcerated. So I feel like I earned my medal as well. You know, I earned my medals as I went along in my buttons. So I'm a proud person to know that I got promotion while I was in there. And I was almost a sergeant before I retired. And by me working in law enforcement all those years, you would think that, you know, you got somebody on your side, especially when you're coming forth as a victim and as a witness. But in my case, it turned out to be like I'm less believable than the people that they're following and digging up and doing this and jumping over hurdles for, you know, which is the mob, the very people that killed the man. You know, I'm telling them that the man was killed, he was buried alive. I told them exactly where he's located at. I've taken Fox News in there from New York, Eric Shine, and showed them the exact location. There's only been two entities that I've taken to the actual crime scene where it happened at, and that was the Fox Nation out of New York. Eric Shine, Riddle, the search for James R. Hoffa, number one, and number two, I took the Michigan State Police in there. Actually, I took Eric in there, Eric Shine, in April of this year, 2023. And in December the 4th of 2018, I took the Michigan State Police in there. We did a walkthrough, just like I did with Eric Shine. But the difference is, with the Michigan State Police, we had GPS and camera. We did a complete walkthrough. I showed the homicide detective for the Michigan State Police, step by step, what happened, where I was at, where all happened. He had GPS and camera. And ironically speaking, 6 months later, somebody in the FBI in Detroit called the state police and told them to cease and desist. And so they couldn't go any further with the investigation. So I called the Hoffa Task Force, head guy over the Hoffa Task Force, and he told me it was not him that called the Michigan State Police. It was somebody that was out of their authority, called the state police and told them to cease and desist. So that gave me the impression that there's some type of cover-up going on here. That's why I came to your program to see if you could get somebody that could do an independent investigation, you know, within that particular agency to find out exactly what really is going on. A lot of things could be going on. A lot of things, I don't want to say what could possibly be going on, but there's a lot of other people that could be opening up a can of worms. But for some reason or another, somebody don't want this man to be found. From the very beginning, the suspects who killed this man, who were implicated in the beginning, they said they had actually killed the man. It was true. They said Ralph Ricardo, the guy that was in prison, was lying. He lied about some things. He lied that he said that Hoffa was taken to New Jersey in a barrel and buried in some Moscato dump or something. And they dug there last year. And like I told them before they went and wasted their time, energy, and resources, I called the FBI and told them. I said, you're just wasting your time. But they went on and listened to this journalist out of Washington, D.C., Dan Modell, who right today, he still think that Hoffa's buried in New Jersey. And like I told Dan, I said, Dan, he hung up the phone on me, he blocked me from Facebook, he blocked me from Twitter. And, he feels like my story is not as credible as his story. But he's going by what the mob told him, you know,
Right.
which is correct. The mob told him, which went and told Ricardo that certain individuals had something to do with the actual murder, which was true. Now, Ricardo got that right information. One of the perpetrators that he implicated was actually one of the people who tried to chase me down and abduct me and kill me very same day that they buried Hoffa. And we'll get to that soon in a minute. But getting back to my personal background, that's pretty much it. My education and my work history. Now, getting to the beginning of the story, when I first came to Detroit back in 1975, I drove up here in my 1970 green Firebird Pontiac because the sister told me, she said, hey, Mike, why don't you come to Detroit and work? There's a lot of jobs up in Detroit. They're hiring for security and factory work. She said, why don't you try to weigh the odds and put your responsibilities first versus your education, because I was getting ready to go to Bear State College that year, 1975, in September. So I said, okay. So I drove up here, went to Eastern Michigan to see my sister and my oldest brother there. And while I was there, I noticed on TV that they were hiring at this place called Renaissance Center downtown Detroit. They were just building it. They had some of it already complete that year. They call it
Mm-hmm.
phase 1 and phase 2. Okay, now phase 1 was complete. So the mayor that year, Mayor Coleman Young, and several other politicians invited the public in, because on the news that day they said, when I got here, they said they were inviting the public in to fill all these job positions because they were planning on having a grand opening the following year, which was 1976. So they were trying to pull together like a bicentennial type of thing
Mm-hmm.
in 75, because they were trying to make it look like the spirit of 1776 and 1976. There is going to be a bicentennial ribbon cut. And at the same time, uh, Jimmy Hoffa, which was the Teamsters Union president of Local 299 on Trumbull Street here in Detroit, was trying to gain his position back in office because he had been incarcerated. He had went to prison back in the 60s, and he was facing, I think, like over 10 years. And President Richard Nixon pardoned him in 1971 and let him out on the conditions that he couldn't run for Teamster Union president until 1980.
Right.
And Hoffa decided he wanted to run for president in 1976, I guess, because for one, he did such a good job and he had a lot of power and everybody liked him. But Mob felt like they didn't want him there, and Nixon felt like he didn't want him there because everybody had their hands in this Teamster pension fund, which was helping them in a big way. They pocket like a couple of million, and on the side, and they could build casinos and they could build hotels and all that, which they did. The whole entire Las Vegas is built by Teamster pension funds, Jimmy Hoffa.
Yep.
A lot of people don't know that, but I knew that. And so Yeah, the mob had influence in it. Washington had a lot of influence in it. Everybody had interest in it. So they decided they didn't want Hoffa to be in there because this Simmons was in there. He appointed while he was in prison. And they felt like they could get more done, get more money out of the pension fund with this Simmons versus Hoffa telling them what to do, regulating their activities. Excuse me. So getting back to the Easter, when I first came on up here to Detroit, like I said, I saw that they were hiring downtown Detroit, and so I got my 1975 Pontiac, which was in green color. It was like money green, not money green, but light colored green. It was the type of green that you would see a tone lighter than the average
Right.
green, but it was outstanding. The monster green, is supposed to say. So, yeah, my monster green Firebird Pontiac, 1970 Pontiac. I drove it down to Detroit downtown to the Renaissance, and as I got to the building, I pulled up in the parking lot. At that time, they had parking structures where you could go inside the building and park your car, get out your car, go through the door, go shopping. They had all types of spectacular things in the building. They had movie theater. They had places you can go shopping, like a total mall in there. It's a total mall within the circle of the building. But a lot of the towers, they had like office space. And Tower 400, 100, 200, 300 was being built. Now, the Center Tower, which is one of the tallest hotels in Michigan, is still there. It's still the tallest building, like 72, 73 stories. It used to be called the Western Inn, but now it's called the Marriott. So as I went inside the door and I got in my car, I went to the front lobby area and I saw a security guard sitting behind the desk. Well, I asked the security guard, I said, "Where's Clean America?" Clean America is a temporary employment agency where they hire you for several job positions. I was trying to become a security guard at the time. So came up here. I chose work over school because I had just had a son. My son is my first son. My oldest son was born July the 15th that year. And 15 days later, I came up here trying to get work so I could take care of my responsibilities. Like my sister said, so I chose that. So while I was in there, he said, I asked the security guy, I say, "Where's Clean America?" He said, "Go down the escalators to the ground floor and make a right." So I took the escalator down to the ground floor, and some odd reason I made a left. So as I went to my left, it took me to Tower 200, which was already complete but empty, you know. So as I proceeded further, which it's now Tower 300, but it was only dirt then and cement. They were building the not the ground level, but the basement level underneath the ground level at the time. So as I proceeded into what is now Tower 300 in the Renaissance Center, which is now the General Motors headquarters, I saw all this plastic up. It was about maybe 20 feet tall, the kind of plastic that you can't see through, that you can hear through. And
Right.
above that plastic was yellow cords hanging and white lights. So as I entered into that area, I looked to my right, and there was this like a yellow ramp going up. And then behind that ramp, construction ramp, it had a sign, and it said, "Authorized personnel only. Do not enter unless you have hard hat, safety glasses, and steel toe shoes." So I know I didn't have all of that, but at that moment when I was standing there, I heard somebody screaming for help, real loud, screaming for help. So I said, "Wow, maybe I can go in there and help them." You know, I thought it was construction worker at the time getting hurt himself. So maybe I can help him. I was 18 years old then, 66, 67 almost now. I was young. I said, I can go in there and help this guy, whatever the problem is, maybe I can help. So as I went, I looked to my left on that ramp, and there was a door. So I opened the door, and I saw this ramp it was a self-made ramp where they had put cement going. It was a steep ramp going down to the basement level, which is about 15, 20 feet down. So as I walked down the ramp, I hurt my back trying to go down the ramp because it was so steep. But once I caught my balance, I finally got to the bottom of that ramp, and there was dirt everywhere. This 8-foot wooden fence was up all the way around these two pillars that they were constructing. It was a wooden fence. They don't make those kind of fence today. You wouldn't find one like that now. But back then, they had these
Right.
wooden fence. It was like 8 feet tall. I'm 6'5", so I could see over the fence. And as I looked up, there was a pillar here to your left and a pillar here to your right, and each pillar had already been cured. Like you had like 4 tiers in that pillar. You had the first tier, the second tier, the third tier, the fourth tier. Now, 3 tiers, and each one of those pillars had already been cured. So the fourth tier and both pillars were empty, which were about 8 to 10 feet deep. Each tier was about 8 feet to 10 feet deep. Reason why I know because the day after they buried Hoffa, I came back down to the Renaissance Center because I couldn't believe what I had just saw. I came back down there and it was where they pushed Hoffa in the hole there. It was real smooth, fresh cement, real smooth in the circle where he's buried at now. And that other pillar adjacent to the pillar where he's buried at, it still had the empty 8 to 10 foot hole open, and you can see it's like metal squares that they put in between each tier. You could see
Mm-hmm.
that down. It was rusty metal squares, big round rusty metal square, which they pushed him over on and covered him up. So he hit that metal pretty hard, I'm sure, when he fell in there. Uh, yeah, so I was looking up above me when I came down that ramp. I was standing there. I was looking. While I was looking up, I could see 2 men holding this man in the middle who was screaming. I didn't know who he was at the time, and I didn't know who they were at the time. But they had these black suits on, black tie, white shirt, and these dark John Belushi style shades on, and the black shoes. And they had him by his arm, and he was still screaming loudly for help. And while he was screaming, there was a guy next to them, not too far next to them, a construction worker. He was hammering on the cement, trying to drown the man out that was yelling in the middle for help. But I could still hear him and see him because I'm looking right up here at him. So while they were holding me by the arms, I noticed this burgundy 1975 Mercury Marquis sitting behind them with his trunk up and his lights on. And it was this fat, chubby guy sitting behind the wheel with the door open. He had, he had, he had these. Back then, we were wearing those real large, tight collars. Back then in the '70s, that was the style back then. He had that
The
on.
lapel.
Yeah, and he had these sideburns. I can remember seeing that, but I couldn't identify his face. But I found out later that was Chucky O'Brien driving the car. And their to their right behind him was a cement truck, and the ball was turning real, real slow at first, and the gurney was coming from the front all the way down to the hole where they were standing at. And at that moment, the ball started turning real, real fast when I was looking, and they pushed him in the hole, and cement started gushing down the gurney real fast. I mean, it happened so fast, And while I was watching that happen, the truck had its lights on too, and well, no, it didn't have its lights on, but it was running apparently because the ball was turning. But
Right.
anyway, while that was happening, I'm standing here looking, and I look to my right, and all of a sudden, this third person walked up to me. He had the same exact suit that two guys that was holding him in the middle. Black suit, white shirt, the black tie, black shoes, and these dark shades, John Belushi style shades on. He took his shades off and he looked me directly in my eyes. You know, he had dark hair. He was about my height. I'm 6'5". He was about 6'3", somewhere around there. But I could see in his eyes he had been killed several people. He was a dangerous man. He
Mm-hmm.
told me, he pulled his shades off, opened his coat up, showed me his gun. He had one of those shoulder strap type posters on his shoulder. And he said, he pointed at me. He said, you better keep moving or you're going to be next. So I threw my hands up in the air and said, man, you got to worry about me. I'm out of here. So as I
Right,
walked
I'm gone.
away, yeah, I said, as I walked away about 10, 15 feet, I looked over my shoulder and he was coming at me full force. So, you know, he couldn't catch me because I was fresh out of high school, just got finished running high hurdles and cross country and 100-yard dash. You know, he couldn't catch me. So
Right.
I ran over toward Tower 400, which was already complete. And I saw this sign say men and women's restroom. So I ran to the men's restroom, got up on the toilet. I was shaking like Don Knotts. I actually peed on myself. And as I
I don't
looked
blame.
under, you know, I got into the first stall when I got in there. They had 12 stalls back then. They only got like 4 in there now. But while I was on the toilet, I could see, you know, it was about maybe three inches that you could see underneath there when you're sitting on the toilet or whatnot. I, I didn't have to bend down too far. I could see it. The door was right there by the first stall. He walks up to the door. I could see his black shoes walk up to the door. He stood there about 3 seconds and he
Mm-mm.
just turned around and walked away. So I said to myself, I said, wow, he didn't kill me. So I was scared. I thought to myself, should I go out and see where he went? And this is me thinking now on the toilet. So some told me to just go out anyway, take a chance, go on out there. So I went out there, I looked to my right, looked to my left, and when I looked to my left, I saw this door. Come to find out, I went to that door and I opened it up, and it was like the dirty area where they had just pushed the man in. So I got scared again. I ran back to the other side of the Tower 400, went out on Atwater Street, where the Canadian Tunnel is right now. And I looked to my left as I went out on Atwater Street, and I saw that burgundy car that was behind Hoffa and these two mobsters coming around Tower 400 real slow with his lights on. So
Mm-mm.
that scared me again. So I ran back in the building and went Tower 100, which was already complete. I found the restroom in there and I got on top of the toilet in there, stayed maybe like 12, 13 minutes. And then when I finally decided I can come out, I said, wow, they probably in this building looking for me everywhere. I said, where is my car? So I figured I'd finally fiddle around in there because I didn't know where I was at. The city's so big to me and the building was so huge at the time. I finally stumbled back into the parking lot where I had parked my car at. Like I said, they had 2 parking lots. They had one on the east side of the building on Beaubien Street, and they had one on Atwater Street. Atwater Street is the parking structure that I had pulled in on. The one on Beaubien side was the side where it was not complete yet. It was all dirt, and that's where they came into the area where they buried it. All of that was just dirt, nothing but dirt and mud. That's all I can remember from that side. So I got back in my car and I went on back down to Easter, and I told my family about it, and they said, Mike, how are you? Leave that alone, man. They kill you and our whole family. So you know, I left it alone for a long time, and then 2 years later, I came to my brother-in-law. He was a Detroit police officer. I told him about it. He said, Mike, how are you? I leave that alone, man. It's the mom. You know,
Dangerous
so
folks. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So then I talked to some people that I went to school with who ended up being state troopers, and they're retired now. A couple of them told me, they said, Mike, That law is bigger than the both of us, man. I hate to read
Mm,
about you floating down the Detroit River head first. I'm like, what? And we go to church together, we went to school together, grew up together, and they're lieutenants and stuff with the state police. I just know they don't help me, Negative, I told another friend of mine, Wayne County Sheriff, Berrien County Sheriff, and then he worked his way up as being working with me with the state of Michigan on the parole board. Told him about it on Facebook and everything. Called him on the phone and told him about it. They don't want to hear about it. Nobody wants to touch it. And this is law enforcement. Nobody wants to touch it. I'm like, am I in the twilight zone or something, or is this just me? you know,
right,
I'm trying to report a murder. Several years later, I'm thinking, well, maybe everybody's dead or whatever. Mostly, which they were and were not. So anyway, I had the guts enough to come forth, and this is what I get. And I'm not going to testify against anybody. At this point, I'm thinking, well, it's not about it's not about who done it. It's about where's the body. That's what I
right.
was
The
looking
close.
at because I know I'm not going to testify against anybody. You know, I'm scared. I don't want
Right.
nobody coming trying to kill me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, and then
Yeah.
I'm fearing for my life and my family's life. But at the same time, I want some closure in my life, and I want some closure for his family. The Hoffa family in the Yarbrough now. And
Right.
that was important to me, and it's still important to me. And like I said, nobody wants to hear me. I'm not getting anywhere with the law enforcement here. I'm not getting anywhere with the media here. I had to go outside of Detroit to get a news media in New York to even hear my story. And I had to go to the History Channel, Lawrence
Right.
Fishburne on the History Channel as well. They considered my story and they put me on their story. But ironically speaking, every time I get on some type of media or something, this person, this journalist named Scott Bernstein, gets on there and muddy the water with his story, what he think
Pops
happened.
up.
He's done all this research with the feds, and he checked the Hoppex memo. He got over 24 FBI agents saying that what he thinks is more credible than what I'm saying. So it's like he's trying to cover it up, or he's trying to write a book. I don't know what the case scenario is, but I talked to Scott. I asked him, what would he consider my story? Would he let me come on his podcast, The Original Gangster? He's the guy he did write a story for me. It's called In the Gangster Report. I don't know if you ever seen his page, but you can go to the Gangster Report. You got to pay $10 a month to get the subscription to see my story in his article. But he wrote my article in 2016. I thought he was believing what I was saying when he wrote it, but year came by, and after these years and years and years went by, and I asked him could I get on the Original Gangster podcast with him and his friend. He just flat out told me he don't believe what I'm saying. He rather believe that this man was kidnapped at the Marcus Red Fox in Bloomfield Hill, taken 10 minutes north of where he was kidnapped, shot in the head, taken to some incinerator in Hamtramck, Michigan, which has been proven to be not a fact.
Right.
Several people know that that was not true. But he's sticking to his story that there is no body. And he wants everybody in the world to believe that there is nobody to be found. They're just running around all these years looking for something that's not there. This is what he's telling everybody in the media. And I'm starting telling him that there is a body and there
Hmm.
is some human remains. And nobody's trying to go there to find him, not even you. And he looks at me like, okay, it's nutcase, whatever it is. I don't know what's wrong with Scott. I don't know if he's been paid by law enforcement to cover this up. But to me, he's just as guilty as the people who don't want to find him. You know, they came to the conclusion here in Detroit that there is no body and they need to just cut the case off and quit looking for this man because you're never going to find him. I say that's a bold-faced lie, you know, and I
Mm-hmm.
say he needs to open his eyes and look at the witnesses who actually seen something and take that into consideration versus his research and writing. I mean, I know he's a
Right.
good journalist and everything. He's really, really concerned, I guess, about finding this man. But then, too, I don't think he is because if he was, he would hear me out and
Right.
he would uncover every rock, every stone before he come to the conclusion of his theory versus my theory and anybody else's theory. First of all, I used to be a journalist back in 1971, 72 in high school. And when I did my reports, I didn't just base my stories on research and writing. I wanted to go out there and find people who actually seen something to tell me what they saw, if they had the courage
Investigative
and the guts to
journalist.
come forward. That's what journalists do. Journalists want to
Mm.
be there at the scene of whatever's going on. It's just like if you're over there in Gaza, Ukraine, if you're a journalist, you want to go over there and see what's really going on. You don't want to sit back and say,
Right.
well, I opened the book and I saw Hoffa and I saw the FBI, I heard what they said, you know, when it first happened. Things change after 48 years, duh. I mean, where are you at? What world are you living in? You know, and now here
Right.
you got a living witness. Me, I ear witness. I heard, I seen everything. And you got
And you
another
can't put a
witness.
time frame on witnesses. Sometimes it takes years for those witnesses to deal with it internally to be able to come out and talk. That's why we never give up. That's why it's important for me to do what I do is give a voice to the voiceless because you
There
everybody
you
has a
go.
story. It's whether it falls on deaf ears or if it falls on somebody that really wants to listen.
Right. So you understand exactly what I'm talking about. And you got like five witnesses, at least five witnesses, including myself, that actually
Mhm.
saw something happen. And they're just not talking about it. They're ignoring us. You got David Tubman. His mother and father knew Chucky O'Brien, and he pulled up and almost hit him when he was coming out of the parking lot at the Marcus Red Fox.
Yep.
His father knew Chucky O'Brien personally, and Chucky was driving the car that day. But he
Mhm.
lied and said he had nothing to do with it. He was nowhere around. Fish story. You know, I knew he was lying all along, you know, because I seen him at the Renaissance Show in the car.
Right.
And he was also seen 30 minutes after they buried him at the on Trumbull Street downtown Detroit at the local 299, dropping the burgundy car off in the keys. A secretary or somebody seen him, handed him the key. He handed them the key. This was at about 4 o'clock after I seen them bury Hoffa at the Renaissance Center at 3:20 p.m. July the 30th, 1975. Now, the first two witnesses that saw him get in the car at the Marcus Red Fox in Bloomfield Township, that's two witnesses. This,
Right.
actually, it's six witnesses altogether. The next two witnesses was David Tubman's mother and father, which were driving down Telegraph Road south towards Detroit, not north, like Scott Bernstein saying it went to a house and got shot in the head. They didn't go
Right.
north. These witnesses saw the burgundy car, which almost ran them over. And David Tubman's father knew
Mhm.
Chucky O'Brien personally by frequenting one of his company businesses, restaurant back then, and seeing him at Darby's restaurant, which was burnt down in 1968. But anyway, his father and his mother saw Chucky driving the car, and they saw two men in black suits with their knees, with their feet down on something in the floorboard. That something was Jimmy Hoffa, because two witnesses saw Jimmy Hoffa get in that car in the back seat.
Right.
And as they proceeded south, they ended up at the Raleigh House, and the Tubmans saw that car pull at the Raleigh House, which was 10 minutes south, about 10 minutes, 15 minutes south of the Bloomfield Marcus Red Fox. That's where I believe they put Hoffa in the trunk of the car because state police dogs got his scent in the trunk of the car. That's why the trunk was up, apparently. They was taking him out of the trunk and taking him over to the hold. And state police dogs got a hair and a brush of Hoffa that was in the back seat of some blood of Hoffa. So we know
So
he
that's
was in that car.
right there.
Yeah, we know he was in that car. And I know he was standing there in front of me, getting hollering and screaming for help to the top of his voice, while this construction worker was trying to drown him out, beating on the cement with one of those cement busters. Back then, they had the kind with the cord on it, and it was like it would leave you shaking, you know. So I wanted that job back then, but I couldn't handle the shaking of the cement buster, so I got out of the contract, construction work. But anyway, recently, while me and Fox News was in the building doing a walkthrough with cameras and stuff, Eric Shine, the news anchor for Fox News, me and him was standing there at the crime scene, and he put his camera up to the side where Hoffa's buried at. And you can see the cement down in there, and lo and behold, guess what we found? More evidence. We found a construction worker's hard hat sitting entwined in the side of Hoffa's grave. Now, that's new evidence. It might have DNA in it. It might have other things that will pinpoint back there in the 70s, because that particular hard hat I can remember was very popular back then, because on the logo that I seen, I can't hardly make it out. From what I could see, it looked like a Santa Fe logo. But every construction worker loved to have on their hard hat back then. And it was like a plus in the middle. Kind of looked like Red Cross logos. But I think it's the Santa Fe logo. If somebody can blow it up good enough where they can see it, they'll know for sure. I couldn't blow it up where I could see it. My eyesight is not that good. But that's the hard hat that's intertwined in the side of Hoffa's grave. That's exactly right in front of that is exactly where Hoffa is buried at. That cement that you see that's caked in there, that's the part of the pillar that they were constructing at the time when I saw them pushing him over in it. That's tier 4 of that pillar. That's the last top underneath the ground floor there. As you can see, that's the ground floor that you're looking at. That big fat chunk of cement at the top is the ground floor, and up underneath there is the tier number 4, the first tier of that pillar. Like I said, there's 4 tiers in each pillar. And as Sean looked at it, it was like we looked at it. It was like a very, very eerie feeling, man. I was like spooked. I was like, wow, for real. And back then, you could go on the side of that pillar. You could just go through the door and walk all the way around. There's just staircase. You could walk all the way down to the basement level from the ground level. And if anybody go in there, they'll be able to see oily grease glove prints on the side of that pillar, because the construction workers wanted everybody to remember that that's where they buried Hoffa at. And if I'm not mistaken, I even signed my initials on that wall saying R.I.P. Hoffa, R.I.P. All of that's going to be found, and you're talking all the way back to the 70s when I wrote that on there, when those glove prints were put on that pillar. That was to remind me and anybody else, I guess, that would come on the scene that this is where this man is buried at. We don't want to forget it. So, year after year, I would repeatedly go back to the building, and just so I wouldn't forget where it happened at. When I first came to the FBI in November of 2002, I gave them the improper information. I gave them the information that Hoffa was buried in Tower 400, but it was Tower 300, because the way the building is designed, when you come in off East Jefferson Street, it takes you to Tower 100. and it looks like the building is facing, it is facing the east, but it's built in a circular motion. So once you get inside the building, you get lost because actually, if you're looking at it from Jefferson Avenue, the building is built on the Detroit River, the south end of the Detroit River. So
Mhm.
that's what confused me and that threw me off, thinking that it was not Tower 300, which was under construction in phase two, but it was Tower 400. It wasn't Tower 400, it was Tower 300, which was not built yet. It was still at ground level. So it was only like three and a half towers up. The center tower, the tallest hotel in Michigan, was not even half that tall yet. They were still building that. But Tower 400, Tower 100, Tower 200 was complete, which was phase one. So they invited everybody in the building to fill all these job positions because they was going to have the grand opening in 1976. So uh, phase two was Tower 300, Tower 500, Tower 600, which were not even started yet. They were just beginning that. That's where Tower 300 was, which was under heavy construction. And come to find out that that particular cement pouring was owned by the mob. And a particular construction company that was involved in that particular cement pouring, I found out at the abstract and title building at the down in City County building in Detroit that it was Turner Construction that actually had that contract bid that year. Don't take me for that specifically because I can't prove it now because I went back in the building several years later down at the City County building to see if I saw the correct information. It was this big map. They had a lot of big maps you could look at back then, and that's why
Right.
I know it's Turner Construction because it was on the map, And I went back down there to see if I could see it again to make sure this is what I saw, which I knew what I saw. They said they don't have it anymore. They put it in the basement of the city county building, and it caught on fire. It mysteriously
Mm.
caught on fire. I'm like, wow, are
Isn't that
you
convenient?
serious? So I got on the Greyhound bus and I went to Lansing, Michigan, which is the state capital of Michigan, Lansing. I went to the archives where you can go to check things out in the archives, news articles, whatever you're looking for is in the archive. So I went in there, I had
Hmm.
to take a picture ID and everything, because everything is under security, it's tight. Like trying to get into the White House. But I went in there,
Right.
I looked, I asked questions. They said, we don't have it. We just don't have any type of architecture or anything of that building. So I came back home, ground, but immediately called the architect who designed the building. Or I'm sorry, I just can't seem
Yeah.
to.
All right.
Yeah, I just can't seem
Life
to.
happens live.
Hold on a minute. Give me a
You're good.
hot
You're
minute.
good. You
Okay.
get situated. I'll say hi to everybody in chat. Crime Curious. She come in. I'm not sure
Yeah,
she's still here with us. She says she was looking very forward to this. Witchy lady, welcome in. Thanks for hanging out. Missing in America. Hello, Anthony. I hope you're doing well, love.
okay, got it. I
It
think
just
I,
woke up. She's popping in, and
I think
Farkey
it'll
was
stay
working
on
on
there
the
a few more
cats.
minutes anyway.
All right.
Okay, got it. Okay, can you see me? Okay.
We get situated. You're good.
Wow, that's bad too. Thought I had it on there good enough, but guess I didn't. But
You're fine. You
anyway,
would
that's the
believe.
moral of the story. I know it didn't last long, but that's pretty much
Right.
the tall tale story of what happened to Jimmy Hoffa actually happened to him. I know everybody's curious to know what really happened because they've been hearing thousands of stories, different stories. Where is that? Who done it? And
Mhm.
all that. Or you at the last chapter of actually the cornerstone of the chapter because he's in the cornerstone of the
Right.
building. And hopefully, somebody will take consideration of going there. And I don't want them to. I don't. I don't. They don't have to tear up the building or nothing. I'm just asking them to go in there and do a non-intrusive search. Ground penetration device. They'll see the void, and once they see the void, they can do a DNA drill down there and get the evidence. Prior to 2001, there was no DNA. So now
Right.
that we have all the technology, there's nothing stopping them. They don't have to speculate. They don't have to tear down our building, cut
Right. We're
nothing out
not
of
trying to do
nowhere.
anything invasive. And I've
There
been
you
working
go.
on getting somebody that owns a LiDAR. And then I have a friend that's looking at getting a LiDAR, which is ground penetration. And,
Oh, really?
yeah, the 8 feet, it apparently is no trouble at all to see through concrete, just to look for the void. And, we're
Right,
not wanting to
right.
tear the building up or anything. For those of y'all that don't know, this was the Ford building. Now it's a GM, right?
Correct, correct. And another thing is with that non-intrusive search, if they can get permission to go around that pillar, they'll get an even closer view of what's in there. Because it's not coming down through the ground floor thickness. It's right there at it on the side of that
Right.
particular pillar. So make a note of that. So if you ever do find someone that can go in there, tell them that they can get an even closer view, probably 4 feet. I would say 4 to 5 feet on the side of that pillar, which would be even closer view than from the ground level view. Because you don't have to deal with that thickness as you saw where that hard hat was sticking in there. Right up
Mhm.
above that hard hat, you can see the thickness of the ground floor. I would say it's about 3 feet thick. Just that alone. That's
Right.
about 3 feet of concrete on top of the 8 feet underneath that. So I would say he's about 8 to 10 feet. 8 to 10 feet
Right. At least.
See that above that hard hat? There's
Mhm.
that's the ground floor. And right underneath there where the hat is at, that's the beginning of the 8 feet down where he's at.
And see, Mr. Sunshine, he's a concrete worker, not now, but he was a concrete worker. So I've done a lot of talking to him and digging and picking his brain too about concrete and what all goes into
Really?
effect. And I've even had him look at some old pictures of when they were constructing and then the newer pictures and got his opinion on this too. I mean, and you're
So
talking a lot of metal.
he's very familiar with the work.
Yes, very familiar with the
So
work.
you know what
He built some of
I
these big
mean?
condos in Port Orange on Beachside. How many of them have you built? 2 big ones. He's built the Aruba was the last one that he built here on beach. Well, we're in Orlando now, but on Beachside in Daytona Beach. So he is my concrete go-to guy. I sit and picked
Yeah.
his brain for hours one night about concrete.
Well, ask him, do he remember those concrete cement busters, with the big cord on it, that they used to have to bust up concrete with? You remember that pretty good?
Right, jackhammers is what we call them around here.
Is that what we
And
call a jackhammer?
he would come home and he'd still be vibrating from using them. That's these guys here.
Yeah,
These
that's
big old
exactly why I
jackhammers.
didn't want to get into that because it was
See,
mandatory that you had to use those if you were
you
in the
see this
cement
big hose?
construction
That's a
worker.
big compression hose. That thing's got air running through it. These things will
Yeah,
rattle
yeah.
your brain. And
Yeah,
he
and
would vibrate
that was
for
the
hours.
norm all through the whole city. Everybody's city that you go to that was in the concrete business, they had to know how to use that thing. Or you couldn't work. It was
Right.
mandatory to bust up the concrete to put some new concrete there. But now they
Those
got the
things
machines
to
now.
control. Yep.
I wish we had those machines back then. I probably end up retiring in construction. But
Now
we
they got big
didn't.
old pins they put on the end of bulldozers. You could switch out the bucket for a pin, and they use them in
Right.
Nashville because it's a karst zone because of all the limestone, and they take them and they come in and they bust up the ground with it. And it's a big, huge pin. I've seen one of them break.
Right.
It's not pretty to watch one of them break. We were putting in
Right.
plumbing.
And both of them are loud. Both of them are pretty loud. You know. And when you're hammering it, you might think you're drowning somebody out close by and screaming for help, but from I was maybe 15, no more than 20 feet away from them pushing him in the hole. I could hear him clearly
Right.
yelling for help. I could see and hear him clearly yelling for help. So it didn't help them to do that because I was right there. They probably drowned him out over there in Tower 400, where the majority of people were, where I ran and hid on top of the toilet. But right there in the construction area where they were drilling at, you could hear him clearly yelling for help.
Mm-hmm.
Even where I entered into the area, construction area, coming out of Tower 200, as soon as I got to that plastic that was hanging up, I could hear right through the plastic. I mean, it's not soundproof. It's just to cover up, I guess, the dust or whatever. They didn't want nobody to see what they were doing. I guess that's why they had it hanging there. It was trying to stop people from coming over there in the construction area, pretty much.
Right. And now they
But
use the that orange mesh, so it's
I
not the
don't know
same.
what they use now, but I know what they used back then. They used that plastic, thick plastic that you can't see through, but you can hear
Mm-hmm.
through it. And it kept people out from coming in. That's about it. You know. But they had this entranceway, like I said, like a little yellow and orange ramp that you could walk up. It was no more than maybe about 3.5 feet tall. First, it started off flush to the ground, but it went up like a V, and the more it went up, the thicker it got, all the way up to like 3 feet, 2.5 feet. And when I got up to the top of that 2.5 foot ramp, like I said, to my left, there was a door. It was shut. So I opened the door, and that's when I saw this big cement ramp that they had, like a temporary ramp to get down to the base of the floor, which went down about 15, 20 feet down. That was the basement level, which was nothing but dirt. They was cement. They was building the whole uh, ground, the whole basement level. You know how you build basement levels in a house. You start from the basement, put all your plumbing and everything in, pipes and sewer systems. That's where they were. And that's why I went down there.
And this is
And
a massive building. This is massive.
yeah, it was massive. Back then, the Renaissance Center, which is General Motors headquarters right now, it was built with the most cement in the entire nation. No other building was built with that much cement until recently out in California. They built one that outdid the Renaissance Center. But back then, the building cost like $500-600 million to build. You can imagine what it would cost to build a building like that today. I mean, it would be in the billions, you know. So yeah, he's built. He was buried in a wet place, wet cement. He was buried near the Detroit River, wet everything. I talked to a former Colombo crime family member, Michael Francis, and his information coincides with my information. So Mike came down here back in February, and he went to the police and reported his information at the second precinct, Detroit Police Department. He filed a report with them and let them know that he's interested in finding Hoffa and bringing some closure to Hoffa's family, and finding closure to bring it to the Yarbrough family as well. So I appreciated
Right.
Mike for doing it. He invited me to one of his seminars, but I didn't get a chance to go here in Detroit, in Michigan. But one day we're gonna meet. He was a capo, is it? Capo regime in
Capital.
the
Yeah.
Colombo crime family in New York, and he
Mm-hmm.
said that it was a New York hit. It was not a Detroit hit. It was orchestrated from New York.
The
I
old
don't know.
timers.
Yeah, I don't know who orchestrated it, but he knows a lot about the Genovese crime family because he's one of the 5 families in New York that all this situation occurred from. I mean, I'm not saying the Detroit crime family didn't have nothing to do with it, which they did, but I don't just want to implicate who did what because I'm not all about who done it. I'm not concerned about who done it. I just really want to know where is the body, because that's what I want everybody to know. Where is the body? That's all I'm concerned about. And I want them to go in there and get this man's remains out of that uh,
Right.
particular area. And that's it. Once they go in there and find what I said with the ground penetration device, do DNA test, they're going to see that everything I've been saying is true. I mean, then we can put in all this speculation. Okay. It's very, very frustrating to me that you're not taking me seriously. But hopefully one day before I die, I'm almost 67 years old now, but I'm hoping and praying that one day before I die, that they'll bring some closure to this particular case, because it's been haunting me ever since I was 18 years old, man. I mean, this has been
And
a
that's all
long,
family
long
and
time.
victims want, is to be heard and to have closure. You
Yeah,
got all
you
these
just
crazy
hear me.
stories. He's in the swamp, he's in the dam, he's this,
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
that, and
wait a minute.
none of it
Are
has
they
brought
serious?
anything. None of it has brought
Are they
anything.
serious? Or am I in the twilight zone? I mean,
Right,
really? This
right.
is what I'm
Why
thinking. I'm like, either I'm in
why
the
would you kill a
twilight
man in
zone.
It's crazy. Why would you kill a man in Michigan and then take him all the way to Florida and throw him in the swamps? Ain't nobody trying to be in these swamps down here to start with, much less to go
Right.
drive all the way across the country. That's crazy. I mean, I'm not saying it
Well,
doesn't
I
happen,
can.
because we just had a recent case where a crazy woman drove a child across country and dumped him here in Florida, but that's a whole different story. But you're talking mobsters. They're not going to take
Yeah,
they're not going to take that time to do something like that.
there you go. I mean,
They're not.
smart people don't do stupid stuff like that. You want to get rid of that person, that body immediately. I mean,
Hmm.
like now. Within the hour, which they
And
did.
dumping grounds are real. Like, we know this. If you're a part of the true crime community, or if you're part of crime, period, if you do any kind of research, dumping grounds are real. They're not going to
Yeah,
go far. You're going to stay right there within 10 miles of your area to work in your dumping ground. You're not going to want to carry a body around for no long period of time. That's not going to
right. And
happen.
all these places where they're searching, the FBI had already had them under surveillance. I mean, why would they take this man to a place where the FBI has already been searching already? You know, that didn't make sense. But the place where they took him to, where I seen them bury him at, it was not under the radar. Nowhere.
Right. It's
There
construction.
was only one car. It wasn't no two or three cars. It was just one car. It burned
Hmm.
that maroon colored 1970 Mercury Marquise. It was not a black Cadillac over here with more blood evidence and hair samples or none of that. This is what these podcasters are trying to say, like finding Hoffa on Facebook. And I started telling them, man, now he's muddying the water. He don't want to believe what I'm saying. I don't know if for some reason I came to him when I was on his podcast and I told him about what happened. Now, next thing I know, a year later, he's came up with another fictitious story like, well, it might have been down there where he at, but it wasn't that exact spot. It's another spot. And it was not just that one car involved. It had to be two or three other cars, because that one car didn't have enough DNA evidence in it for it to be Hoffa in that car. He had to be in another car because they must have shot him in the head or something. There had to be more blood evidence. I'm like, okay. Now he done made up something else after I done told him the real deal. What's his
Hmm.
purpose? He's what are these people's purpose for doing what they're doing, and they ain't seen the damn thing at
Building
all.
a
And
narrative.
then somebody to come to them who's seen it. It's like,
Right.
oh, hey, he's making up something. He don't know what he's talking about. He's just, why didn't he come forth 49 years? Well, if you were there and you saw what I saw, and you knew your people telling you I didn't know who they were, but my people were telling me who they were, because I'm from a little small town. I didn't know about no mobsters like this. We didn't have no, we had Al Capone in Chicago coming in and out, but that was way before my
Right.
time, but I had nothing. I didn't have, I studied about La Costa Nostra a little bit in 1974. They had just changed the name from the mob to La Costa Nostra. And I still wasn't interested in no mob Costa Nostra.
Right.
For what? What they got to do with me, right? I'm like, okay. Then I walk up on murder. And the people who I walk up on happen to be the very people that I'm not interested in. Never have been. But I walked up on and was almost killed by these knuckleheads. And the people that's out here in the media and podcasts and different stuff still trying to make up their own story about what they think happened to this man. Now, what's their purpose? I don't know. I don't care. But I do know one thing. They don't know Jack. And I wish they did. If they did, I'd be on their side. But I'm sorry. Just like I told the FBI, every time they went and dug and wasted our resources, our money, our time, our tax dollars, federal tax dollars, to the tone of over $3.5 billion.
Mhm.
He's not there. I mean, what does it take for you people to understand that I see what happened and I'm trying to tell you what happened, where it is, and what almost happened to me, and it's a blessing that I'm still here to be able to tell you this. I mean, geez,
By the grace of the
right.
Lord, that man didn't kill you that day. You had a guardian angel
Now,
sitting on your
that's
shoulder.
my point. See, so there's an angel. There's an angel. Now, this man could have very easily killed him. He could have took his time if he wasn't on the clock trying to get away. If he had kicked that door in that bathroom, he would have probably killed me. But then, too, he might have not because he had a silencer or something on the gun. I don't know. I didn't see the butt end of the gun. I mean, the tip of the gun. I just see the butt end in his shirt. I mean, his holster.
Right.
I don't know what he would have done if he had saw me, but I do know one thing. Michael Francis of the Colombo crime family said that he probably wouldn't. It's a blessing that I'm alive, basically. But he thinks that he probably wouldn't have killed me. He just wanted to scare me up, not to say nothing, because they have to have straight orders from the boss to kill somebody. Now I was
It's
on
an
a
organization.
podcast. Yeah, I was on a podcast this year. A guy named Lee Cole the third. Say, hey, your story don't sound too credible to me because for one, you're on toilet stool top. That don't sound right. But two, the mob don't wear suits. I'm like, what? Everybody I know in the mob pretty much wears suits. So anyway,
Pretty sure
he's
that's what
arguing
they
with
were
me on the
with
podcast, and disagreeing with what I'm
fly
saying.
dressers.
He feels like everybody's saying on the comments saying, what is he talking about? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I was on his podcast and he said that he don't believe me versus what Scott Bernstein is saying. Him and Scott's real good friend. And he just tore down my credibility to zero. I'm like, okay, kind of hate I came on your podcast. But
Mm.
you probably saw it on my Facebook page because I posted
Yeah.
it on my Facebook page. And if you go on there and hear what he said, you be like shaking your head too. Like, what is wrong with this guy? He thinks because he lives in New York and he knows a lot of mobsters that he knows more than what I know. Okay, still, here we go again. You weren't there. You ain't
Mm.
seen nothing. Just making up stuff in your head. What I look like a journalist or a podcast host, just making up stuff. What am I doing it for? First of
What do
all,
you have
am
to
I
gain
trying
from it?
to? What do you have to gain from making up stuff? I'm on your podcast right now as we speak, trying to give you the honest to God truth about what actually happened to a person that got killed downtown in Detroit. And the person that I believe who got killed was former Teamster President Jimmy. Because the reason why I know this for a fact is because the next day it was a breaking news flash on all three major channels, Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, saying this man was missing. When they popped his picture, big picture of him on the screen. I'm turning the TV, I'm seeing it on every channel.
Mm-hmm.
There's that man again, that's the guy. So I turned to my sister and brother, I said, wow, that's the man I just seen get buried downtown yesterday. He said, Mike, leave that alone, man. Kill you and the whole family. So for years and years and years, I've been having this bottled up inside of me. And then it makes me mad when I finally came out and said something about it to the people who I thought would actually be on my side. Turned out to be my worst enemy. I'm like, wow, okay. Kind of made me regret that I retired from the Department of Corrections, and maybe I should have got into some other profession or something. Because these people ain't on victim side. These people are not on witnesses side. They're on some other tip. I don't know what their tip is, but like I said, maybe it's a cover up, or maybe it's a conspiracy going on, or maybe it's more people that's going to be implicated in this crime, or maybe there's more bodies in that building buried than just him. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
mob cemetery. I don't know. I don't
That's
know
why I
who.
was always
I
wondering.
don't
That's
know
what
who
runs
did
through my
what.
mind. A dumping
Yeah, I don't know
ground.
who did what or who's scared what gonna happen. But I know one thing: there's a man's remains in that building, and there might be even more people buried in that building because like, everything was constructed in phase one. I don't know who's under there, but I do know that the psychic that I talked to on her podcast too, called Friend of Jimmy. She's from Norway. I don't know if you ever saw my podcast, I mean my Facebook page, but if you scroll down, you see a young lady from Norway. Her name is Christine Fryham. And me and Christine Vobez out of California did a podcast, and they came up with something saying something similar to what I'm saying. And she actually said that she was speaking with Jimmy Hoffa, and Hoffa was telling her to find her body. So she flew all the way from Norway to Detroit, and he directed her directly to the Renaissance Center. He says over there by where the flags are flying. She went to the Renaissance Center, and he took her inside the building, but he didn't take her to where he's buried at. He just took her in there, and that was the end of that. But and the communications between me and this psychic ended when they started hearing all kind of funny noises on their podcast. He was interfering with their audio on there, making all kind of strange, odd noises. He was only trying to tell them. They kept hearing three knocks. I'm telling them it's just like the record, knock three times on the ceiling when you, if you want me. That's Hoffa knocking, trying to let them know with those three knocks that it's him. But they was too stupid to hear that.
Mm,
I was trying to let them know that this man is knocking, trying to let you know three times this is him. He's there. But they're trying to say,
right.
oh well, it's probably something else, probably the some other guy that's buried there that's trying to knock on in their house and knocking on stuff. And in the he even knocked in the pod during the podcast audio when I was on their podcast. He was knocking, trying to let them know Mike is the one that knows what's really going on. And then at the end of their podcast, they actually had the nerve to say they don't really believe me. I was very, very hurt. You know,
It was very
I mean,
disrespectful.
yeah, they said they believe me, but they don't believe Hopper is the person that I saw getting killed. And they believe he was killed before they brought him to the Renaissance Center. I mean, come on, I'm telling y'all, the man was very much alive. He was screaming for help. Now you're gonna sit here and tell
Right.
me that he was dead before he got there and they threw him in a hole.
Hmm.
Okay, I was too through again. I don't know what type of book they was trying to write or whatever. They wanted it to be like they thought it was, not the way I was telling them it was. So, people come up with some strange stuff out here, man. It seems like every year goes by, the more and more time goes by, the more and more people come up with these strange uh, theories that they think happen to happen. But like I said, none of them can come to you to this day and tell you that they actually saw, they actually heard, and was almost abducted and murdered by the very persons that killed him. And that one very person that I'm talking about, he's dead now, the one that chased him. His name is Thomas Andrell from the Genevieve's crime. And I can say that now because he's dead, him and his brother.
Right.
But there's still one person living, Gabriel Bedulio out of New Jersey. And he's swearing down he had nothing to do with it. He was nowhere near this thing when it happened. Go to Fox Nation, Riddle, search for James R. Hoffa, episode 6, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm on that video in Fox Nation with Eric Sean. When he came down here, we first interviewed outside the building at the Renaissance Center, and I took him inside and showed him the exact location, the exact spot. He's still right on top of it. And you see it all on TV. You also hear about it on the History Channel, what happened. I'm on the History Channel, which was reported back in 2021 with
Yep.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, my father-in-law actually saw it again last night when me and Mr. Sunshine was talking about, that you had contacted me, and I was telling him he just happened to come down here, and he was like, I watched that on the History Channel the other day, and he just
Oh,
was
you
blown
did?
away.
Okay.
Yep, and it came back on today. It come back on because he looked through the that recording thing. He records his shows because he owns a business, so
Yeah,
he
you
works.
see on those shows on Fox Nation and on the History Channel, they're putting all these theories in one package deal and
Mm-hmm.
making it look like, well, either it could have been like this, or it's like this, or it's like that. They're not actually saying that I'm the real deal here. They saying it could be Scott Bernstein's idea, it could be Dan Mobile's idea, it could be this lawyer down in Georgia saying he's in a golf course and they're peeing on him every day. It could be in the
Oh Lord.
Everglades in Florida. It could be under a football stadium in New Jersey. It could be in this Moscato's dump in New Jersey. It could be in Canada somewhere. Well, maybe the FBI took him across the bridge to Canada. I mean, you hear all these stupid stories, and yet here I am,
Right.
the only person that saw anything. Duh. Can anybody hear me?
Right.
Hello? No,
Right
they
here
can't.
telling my story. Nope. And I
Nobody
pulled you.
wants to hear. Nobody wants
I,
to hear me.
right.
I'm thinking the
And
racial
you've
thing, right?
been
I'm
there.
thinking, well, maybe it's because I'm black, because everybody else is the mob and they're white. But I said, can't be that. But can it? I don't know. None of these people they're talking to actually seen anything. The
Right.
people who did see something went to Picardo over in the prison. The people who killed him went to Picardo. And why did they tell Picardo this happened? I think that Stephen Andretta did that in December of 1975 to deter all the attention away from the actual location where he's buried at in Detroit, town. They had to do something right away because they knew somebody identified his brother, Thomas Andretta, and they couldn't find me. And they was hoping that I wouldn't say nothing. So they had to
Right.
deter everything to New Jersey. This 55-gallon drum and, gateway transportation truck and bury him in a dump out there where they bury a lot of other people at in New Jersey. Okay. Dan Modia, I'm saying telling Dan Modia he's not there, man. Part of your story is right. The Andrettas went to the prison, they told Picardo who all done it. Why he did that, I don't know. But that was stupid on Stephen Andretta's part to admit that to this criminal that I think they were all in the same Genovese crime family. So I guess they figured he told the authorities that Thomas Andretta and the Julio brothers were there. I just don't understand why would he say that. Because everybody knows Steven say he's tight-lipped. He don't talk like that. And everybody
Right.
know the mob say they talking bits and pieces. They don't talk just flat out, straight out like that. But how did Ralph Picardo know who these suspects were and who they really were? The reason why I know Thomas Andretta was one of the suspects because one day I was reading a mob book in the library in 2017, and it happened to be written by Scott Bernstein. I was going through the page, and lo and behold, there's this picture of the person who tried to get me. I'm like, wow, it's the guy that chased me that day. So I put a X mark on his face, I've been carrying that picture around for many years, way before he died. Way before he
Right.
died, I said, this is the man that tried to abduct and kill me and told me to keep moving and I'll be next. Why? I mean, that scared the hell out of me that day. I'm looking at my book. There he was. I didn't know who he was. I remember what he looked like, but I didn't know who he was until
Right.
2017. And that's a lot of years that went by. But I still had in my eyes and in my mind what this person looked like who tried to abduct and murder me. I ran for my life. I ran for my life that day.
And that's something you
And
don't forget.
no, that's something you would never forget. You'll
Mm-mm.
never
Trauma
forget
is
when somebody
real.
tried to kill you. You never forget when somebody kills somebody,
Mm-mm.
especially when you're in close proximity and looking. I'm right there. I'm right there, looking at everything, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. I'm like, this can't be how it is in a big city like Detroit. I mean, what?
He
I'm,
was a
I'm
kid.
walking up on I'm walking up on a murder. You know, I'm walking up on a real live murder. It was like something in Hollywood or something in the movies, but it was real.
Mm-hmm.
And I was right in the middle of the screenplay. Wow. Front row seat, and in danger, serious danger. I mean, it don't get no worse than that. It
Mm-mm.
just don't. I don't know of anybody in this world unless they can live behind something like that because you're dead. You're
Right.
dead. I thank God he let me get away from them people. I just think he built a fence around me. He put a shield around me, and it was spectacular. It reminded me of how he put a shield behind the Egyptians when Moses told him to let my people go. I don't know if you're familiar with that. What happened when they got to the
Mm-hmm.
Red Sea, and God put this shield up where he couldn't get to the people, the slaves, until they crossed the river, and then he just
Right.
buried them all in the river.
And he
That's
was
what happened to
18 years
me.
old when this happened. This is an actual picture. So you got
Yeah,
to
that's
think
that's the
this was
picture.
this
That's
was
what I looked like back then, year before uh, this incident happened. That was a 1974 photo of me. The
mm-hmm.
next year, Jerry curls came out. I don't know if you remember the Jerry curls, but I
Yeah, I
was wearing
remember
a
Jerry.
Jerry curl. I got out of the Afro look. I was wearing an Afro look, but it was curly when I walked up on the murder scene in 1975. I had a Harley Davidson T-shirt on black with a Harley Davidson in the front, some Levi blue jeans, and some green, the same color as my car, some green All Star Chuck Taylor tennis shirt, and my shade. And I was cool as heck. I had the best of cologne on. I was smelling fresh and wow. Back then, they were wearing that Hofstead Z14 cologne out of the mall. And it was expensive cologne, $65 a bottle.
Right.
And hey, that was the stuff I thought back then. We were shoot hanging out at the different concerts and different stuff, man. Back, shortly before that was Woodstock, and everybody's just into peace signs and black power signs. And that's what we used to wear on our jeans.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I ain't gonna keep you long. I guess we can come to an end with this because it seems like I'm
No, I
disturbing
appreciate
on
you coming in and sharing your story with us. And I did put together your video
the
off of Facebook showing the actual site. If you want to hang out, I'll play that. And if we have any
yeah.
questions, all right. So let
Yeah,
me
you
go ahead and
can.
pull
I
that.
just gotta calm down because I'm just going on and
Yeah,
on and
you're
on.
good. And
Kind of get
I don't want you to feel traumatized. We've already discussed it. You're welcome to come in anytime you want to. This is your home. We
yeah.
don't one and done. If you want to come in, you've got my contact information. Just hit me up, text me, message me. Twitter, I'm not hard to get a hold of. It might take me a little while to respond, but I'm always here and you're welcome to come back. You think of anything else or you just want to talk, I mean, come up and we'll sit and I
Well,
call it rocking
I
on the
would
felt.
like to get into details of my life ever since I was 8 years old, all the way up until I was like 27 years old. Three
Very
decades of trauma. Three
very
decades
interesting,
of trauma.
man.
You can look me up and hear me on a podcast called Extraordination by
Mhm.
by William Steele. I mean William Crooks. I'm sorry, William Crooks. You can Google that and play that, and you'll see. You're pretty much here in a nutshell of the trauma that I went through ever since I was 8 years old. So I call it 3 decades of trauma. I'm trying to put together a book. Everybody else writing a book. Why not me?
Right.
My book is
Right.
going to be the truth, though. Everything in it is going to be nonfiction, and it's going to be 3 decades of trauma. And the storyline is going to be cornerstone of the last chapter, Benchmark Murder, with the name of it. When I do get it out there, trying to get somebody to help me put it together now, but the storyline is going to pretty much be like Extraordination by William Crooks.
Right. A
He,
very
he let me
interesting
come on.
story.
He's the one put that together. He recorded me, and I sit down. I told him everything that happened in my life ever since all the way back when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and I appreciate him for that. I've been trying to get him to co-author the book, but he hasn't responded back to me. But I need somebody to help co-author it, and I want to be the author of it. Just don't have a lot of money to put together a little something to try to get it going and get it published.
Right.
I had a few offers that would help me so far, and they said, "Well, wow, we can really do something with that." A guy that he's in the UK, I'm talking to, and I don't know, he might be kind of expensive though. You know what I mean? I need somebody that's cheap, but I ain't got a lot of money,
Right.
pretty much.
And like the chick I hooked you up with, she's good people too, and I hope you guys have been able to work in the background, and she'll be able to get you something started here in the states. Because I mean, I feel like it's important to give the victims a place, and especially if the story that you have and your whole life, like you said, 3 decades of trauma. You guys, I'm not going to get into all
Yeah,
that. But, hopefully Michael will come back up and talk to us about some of the other stuff that he's been through. It'll blow your mind what this man's been through. And you see the picture on your screen here. This is not somebody that just fell out of the woodwork. This is a respected officer of the Michigan State. He was a
yeah,
correctional
did my
officer.
time.
He was, very educated man. Not wanting anything from this. He's not gaining anything from this. And if you do your research, the mom that he's speaking of, her son did an interview and had her tell the story of watching Hoffa get abducted. So this is not something that's just been pulled out of the woodwork or somebody sitting around trying to build a narrative. This is an actual story that you can vet and run down the details to his story.
Yes, it is.
And this is an
Yes,
amazing
it
building.
is.
But I'm going to play
I mean,
this
it's kind
video.
of scary. It's kind of scary in a sense, man. But you try not to be spooked out about it. But hey, it is what it is. I mean, I can't make it. I ain't making this up.
Right,
This stuff actually happened to me and to
right.
him.
Story.
So
Right.
I really, really want some closure behind this, and I really, really want my family and his family to have some closure. One day before I lay down and die. That's one of my biggest wishes is to get somebody to help me go inside that building and do a ground penetration, non-intrusive search, and see that I'm telling the truth. And then there you go. Everything will fall in place.
And this is
We
the
ain't going
world's
nowhere.
most famous missing story. It's like, I've reached out to my resources in the background and I'm still working with people in the background, big people that have pulls. So I'm hoping that, we can, they'll listen to this podcast. I've sent them links to listen to, some other podcasts that you've been on information and like the information's there. It
Yeah,
can be vetted. It's just getting, like I said, you want it to fall upon ears that are not deaf. You want somebody to listen to hear your story and not see through the story. You want somebody to listen to your story because somebody can
right.
always say,
Because
I
it's
hear you, but you
frustrating.
hear me, but are you listening to me?
Right? It's very frustrating to talk. It's like you're talking on deaf ears and nobody really want to hear you. It's like, hello. It makes you wonder: are you really alive or dead? Or are we? Is anybody human? Is
Hmm.
there any human beings? Am I on Mars or somewhere? I
Right.
mean, really, that's the way I feel. That's the way I feel right here in Detroit. I'm like, no news media in the city will entertain my story. But then
Right.
here come a monster or somebody come into the city. They praise him like their God. Michael
Mm-hmm.
Francis, Marvin Elkins, Hoffa limo driver. I mean, he's of the mob. He's with the mob.
Right.
But he had a chance to be on Channel 2 News live. He had a chance to be on Channel 4 News live. When I tried to get on, they said, no, you got to have some type of law enforcement backing for us to be able to put you on our show.
Mm-hmm.
I even had Channel 4 News, Steve Garagiola, come by my house. He denied me being on his podcast, Hoffa podcast, Channel 4. Came by and picked me up, took me to Saginaw to take a polygraph examination with the Michigan State Police. I went up there, took the polygraph. He came back non-conclusive,
And
which
most of them
means
do because they're not even
which
admissible
means
in
that
court.
they don't know if you're telling the truth or lying, and at some point in time, you can take another. Okay. Well, I went up there and told the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. But yet
Right.
it was non-conclusive. So now people are running around talking about, hey, didn't pass the polygraph test. He's lying. Come on now. Give me a break.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a break. But then you got these people like Chucky O'Brien take the test. He passed.
Well, see,
He's
but
telling the truth.
you have to keep in mind that when especially cold-blooded killers take these polygraph tests, they believe their lies. They believe their truth. They believe
Yeah,
the
you're
narrative
right
in
about that.
the back of
You're
their
right
mind.
about that.
And you also have
So
to
he's a
consider that
cold-blooded
blood
killer. He
pressure.
drove this man to his death. So it's
Mm-hmm.
entombed in his mind to pass the test because he knows that
Right.
he didn't do it. So therefore, his mind is entombed to lie. To tell the truth, so to speak, in his regard. But here I
And that's
am taking the test, and I'm telling the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and it's inconclusive.
right, because
I'm
taking a
willing to take all
polygraph,
the
if you're
polygraph
sitting
tests
there
you want to
thinking in
give
your
me.
mind if you're sitting there thinking in your mind, I turned the coffee pot off this morning. I sure did. I know I turned the coffee pot off this morning. It don't make a damn difference what questions they're asking you because what's going to go through that polygraph is what your body picks up, your heat, your temperature, your blood pressure. And in your mind, you're telling yourself in your own brain, I turned the coffee pot off this morning. So yeah, it's going to come back that you're telling the truth regardless of what questions being asked you. That's why they're not admissible in court.
Right,
It's 'cause they're not
right,
reliable.
and all the questions that he asked me were, I told him the truth. I told him exactly what happened to this man. I told him when it happened, where it happened, and what happened to me. And I guess, the vibes that he was getting through the polygraph was inconclusive. He couldn't figure out whether I was telling the truth or not, which
And when
I
you're put on
find
the
kind of
spot like that to
weird.
do a polygraph,
Huh?
you're already a nervous wreck when you're doing a polygraph. I mean,
I
that's
wasn't
not something
nervous because
you do
I
every day, you
wasn't
know what
nervous. I wasn't nervous because I went in there full force to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I mean? Right.
I was very calm. I didn't, my hands
But
weren't
being
shaking or
turned
nothing.
away for so many
I
years
didn't
is
go in
something.
there to lie. I was going there to
Right.
tell the truth. So whatever vibes he got, uh, pulse or whatever. Maybe because I didn't take my blood pressure medicine that day. I don't know. I hadn't taken my blood pressure medicine. But I know
Right.
one thing, I was okay. It was a machine that wasn't okay. And it was him that wasn't okay, the person who was giving me the test.
Right.
Because he didn't seem the least bit interested in what I was saying. He was like, hook him up, put the thing on me, and I'm a retired state trooper, 30 years or whatever. And no matter what this good knucklehead say, I'm right and he's wrong. That's the
Hmm.
way I looked at it.
Yep.
And I called him in. I said, can I take another test? Because I don't feel like that test was accurate enough. Oh, you got the right to take another test, an independent test. I'm not taking the test. Man. I said, well, can you help me find this man in this building? At least do that. Get with the
Right.
Michigan State Police homicide and go in there and find this man? No, that's not my job. That's homicide job. So I called homicide, Michigan State Police. They got rid of the first guy that did the homicide walkthrough with me in 2018. They got rid of him. He believed me. He had the guts enough to go down there and do the walkthrough with camera and GPS. They called him, told him that he's out of his jurisdiction. There's another guy over homicide. He said, well, we don't even have Hoffa's case, period, on our homicide list. I said, well, y'all been investigating this case since day one. Y'all been on the scene of the crime since day one. Michigan State Police and the FBI. Now all of a sudden, when I come to you, you don't want to be bothered. You don't want to have nothing to do with it. Matter of fact, he's not even on a homicide, missing person cold case. I said, well, put him on your list. I mean, this is one of the biggest cold cases in American history, and you mean to tell me Hoffa
Right.
is not on your case, and you mean to tell me you're not investigating this case? It's not in your jurisdiction. It's the FBI's jurisdiction, but all evidence point that the Michigan State Police is on the scene looking for Hoffa since 1975. So who's lying? Who's
Right.
lying? What for? You know, be straight up with me. I'm straight up with you. Be straight up with me. You in law enforcement, I'm in law enforcement. You know, I've worked with you guys hand in hand year after year. FBI, Detroit PD, we practice together on the range with guns. You know, come on now. We eat hot dogs and stuff in the parking lots, our families. But yet, I'm this weird person, outcast, who claims he saw this man that's a high profile case get killed when he was a teenager. And we don't believe it. Okay, well, how many other people, teenager or older people, can tell you what I'm telling you? I'm still
Right.
waiting to hear one. Oh, we got a whole lot of other people on came forth and said this and that. Well, how many other people can tell you that they were standing there and saw this man get buried by a truckload of cement and almost lost their life during the process? I'm still waiting for somebody to come forward and say, well, do you have anybody else that can say that they were close by that saw the same thing you saw? I don't
Right.
care if they did or not. I'm sure they did. They just ain't saying nothing. I'm the only knucklehead that had the balls to come forth. Then I got a
Right.
stupid
Tell
son
your
telling me,
story. Tell
broken balls, you're a man. Woo!
your
And it goes on and on and on.
Mm.
And I hope he hear me say that when he comes see this podcast. He's the one gonna end up growing some balls one day. I hope he lived through it like I did.
Right. Because
But
it's an
that's
important
personal.
story.
I'm
I
sorry, I
mean,
didn't
it
mean to
is.
say
You
that.
know, that's
Um,
you are a witness. You're a real live witness that has begged for somebody to listen and somebody
thank
to
you.
pay attention. And you can't get people to pay attention because you've got all these other cats out here building their own narrative because that's what gets them views. That's what brings up their
I think
views.
so.
And
Yeah.
that's not what we're looking for. We don't want views. That's not what we're looking for. We want truth.
You
We
want
want
to find
closure. We
this
want
man's remains.
closure.
You want to find a person that got killed. You want to find a missing person that y'all keep saying was missing, but he wasn't. I'm telling you, he reappeared in my face and was murdered, buried alive. Now, you standing here saying, well, yeah, my theory is better than his theory, and this theory is better than that theory, and bump what this five-year witness saying, and bump what he's saying as far as he almost lost his life. We don't know that. You're the only one, you're the only person that know that. So why should we believe you? I don't know. That's $1 million question. I don't know why should you believe me. For one, is I'm telling you I saw it. Okay. Can you? No. All you're doing is writing on pencil and paper what you saw in the OPEX memo and what you think the 12 or 24 federal agents said, and you know that they said this and they said that. Well, guess what? Read the updated information that the feds got. When I came to them in November of 2002, and when I came to you in 2016 and told you about it,
Right.
that's updated information. You know, the information that I just gave you about Fox Nation and Michael Francis and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and different stuff is new information. The information I just gave you about David Tubman and his mother and father seeing Chucky O'Brien driving the car, that's new information. The information I gave you about Marvin Elkin, his driver, Hoffa's driver, uh, that saying that he got heard firsthand from Tony Jackalone when they were at a mob meeting at the Omni Hotel across the street. And when they walked across the catwalk as he was lighting Anthony Tony Jack's cigar, he said, "Say hello to Hoffa, boys," pointing over toward the fresh cement area where he was buried at.
Right.
I mean, all of this is new evidence. This is not the Hoffa's memo. You know,
Right. And
that
you have to
hard
listen
head
to
I just
everything.
saw this year, tucked
Mm,
inside next to his grave, is all new critical information. They probably get DNA out of that hard head. And it's
mm-hmm.
probably going to point back to someone that was there at the time when this happened.
Right.
But
Because
the FBI,
DNA's
they
come a
know
long
about it. Probably. I told them about it. I sent them a picture of this new information. And he said, well, Yarbrough, what do you want us to do about it? This is what the person in charge of the Hoffa task force told me. I said, well, sir, all I ask you to do is to do a non-intrusive search in the area where you know I told you where this man's buried at. Once you get the void in that cement, he said, well, I don't think a machine can go through concrete. I mean, you're the FBI, and you're telling
Right.
me this? You
Yeah.
mean
I've
to tell
got
me you
other
telling me
information.
this? You don't think it'll go deep enough down in the ground through some cement? Okay. Well, where you been all these years? The Flintstones? I mean,
Mm-hmm. I
anyway,
said, I've got a girl that owns a LiDAR that I asked, and she said that she can go past 10 feet in concrete. So
yeah.
it's not even that's not even a question. It's just getting it all
I
pulled
mean, you
together
can
and
Google, you can Google
get
the
everybody up
research and
there.
see how much those what those machines are capable of doing. And he's
Right.
gonna
It's
sit there
it's phenomenal.
eating donuts and digging up in his behind with one finger, telling me he don't think it'll go through concrete. What machine do you think will go through concrete? I mean,
Mhm.
wow. When were you born? I mean, I'm
And
talking to
we're
grown
gonna be
people that were
evasive.
kids, probably wasn't even born yet when this happened. Okay, I was 18, and I'm talking to people that wasn't even Scott Bernstein wasn't even born yet. But yet he's coming up with all these theories because he was raised up out there by Bloomfield, Marcus Red Fox, and that's his neighborhood. He
Right.
thinks that because he was born and raised out there by Marcus Red Fox where he disappeared at, that he knows all this research and writing is correct what he's saying. So
Mhm.
everybody believes Scott Bernstein. He don't know nothing. I think
No.
he wish he did. I think he wish he knew what I know, but he just don't. And
Right. And
trying
I
to
mean, like I
convince
said,
him.
what do you've took people, you've took them there and said, "Hey, look, this is where it is." This and what I'm fixing to play here is this is a video of Michael walking through, and he's going to show us exactly
Yeah.
what he saw that day, real time today. This is very
Well, look
interesting.
here. You think that's something? I invited Scott to go down there with me to the location, and he
Mhm.
refused to do it. I asked him to let me be on his original gangster podcast. He refused to let me on there. I asked him to at least consider the fact that this possibly could have happened. He said, I don't believe you. I believe he's telling everybody in the news media, all on the History Channel, every major channel I go on, which ain't but two. That's Fox News and the History Channel.
Right.
Fox News out in New York, the History Channel with Lawrence Fishburne. Those he made sure his words of what he think happened to this man was put out there, and he's trying to convince everybody in America that this man was shot in the head at some Licata's house, 10 minutes away from the Marcus Red Fox,
Mm-mm.
taken from there to Hamtramck, Michigan, which is about 20 minutes away from the Marcus Red Fox in Detroit, Hamtramck, Michigan, which is only about 3 minutes away from the Renaissance Center, 5 minutes or less. And he was incinerated, and there is no remains, there is no body. So everybody's been running around for the last 49, 48 years looking for a body that remains that it's not even there. This is what he's sitting on Fox News telling everybody on Riddle to search for James R. Hoffa with Eric Shine. And this is what he's sitting stinking behind up on the History Channel, telling everybody on a major History Channel the same damn story.
And seeing if you know
It
anything
kind
about
of pisses me
incinerating
off.
people is
It
even
kind of
cremation.
pisses me off, you know?
You're not gone. You can't get that. You don't. All of it doesn't disappear. Even if you put somebody through a cremation, you still have pieces and parts that are there. So there would be evidence. So I call bullshit on that because I've
Right.
held crewmates, so I know what it looks like. You know, I know what you see. I'm not going to get into detail here, but yeah, I mean, even if you incinerate somebody, they're not gone completely. You don't get rid of everything.
Yeah. Look,
I'm gonna
look,
pull
I'm
up
gonna have
this
to cut
video
this
real
short
quick. I
because my
really
wife
want
is
y'all to
walking
watch
through
this.
the house,
Yeah, you're good.
ready
You're
to
good,
go.
Michael. Yeah, you're good. I totally understand. I appreciate you spending your Sunday with us. And if anybody has any questions, what I'll do is I'll have them. I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes. I've got a couple videos I want to run. And
Yeah,
if anybody has any questions, I'll get them to either put it in chat, drop it in the comments below the video, and I'll get back with Michael and I'll either do a short or I'll come on and do a live and we can think tank and get everything together. And then whenever you have a chance, whenever you feel comfortable and you want to come up, if you want to tell your story, you can tell your story. And
yeah,
I'll try to contact the guy that did the phenomenal uh, editing podcast where you told your whole story. If you're good with that, we may come up, we may play that out and let you answer some questions. But you go do you.
yeah,
We don't want to make the wife mad.
yeah. Tell me about it. I think we're
We want
beyond
to be
that
able to
point,
keep
but
you again. We
I
don't want
appreciate you inviting me on your show.
yeah, and I appreciate you and thank you, Michael, and much love and take care of yourself. And like I said, I'm a text away.
Well, thank you. I'll talk to you again.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you. Okay. Bye bye.
All right, everybody. So thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. I'm going to play this video here. This is a really, really good video that I put together. This is Michael's footage. So I want to be able to I want to be able to play this so you guys can actually see what he saw that day. So here we go. And far you're good, honey. I totally understand it. Y'all let me know if y'all got sound. First, it's going to play out some photos. Here we go. So I have to talk over a little bit of this music to keep YouTube from hitting us. So there's no sound here. I'll back it up. You got sound now, Kit? Did y'all have audio? I sure hope so. Is my audio working? Y'all know my computer hates me. Did y'all hear it? Because if not, I'll replay it. Because I'm getting mixed. I'm getting mixed. Kit says yes. Gma says no. Far says no. Shauna. Gma says no sound. Farq says she can hear a whisper. Welcome in, Shada Skadum. I hope I said that right. No sound currently. Okay, so I'm gonna replay it. I muted it so I could ask for my nasty habit cigarettes. So y'all let me know if y'all have sound, and I'll try not to talk over a whole lot of it. And if YouTube hits me with a music strike, then you know what? Yeah, you have a wrench, ma'am. I told you you had a wrench. I gave you a wrench in the last live. You hadn't been in the live, so I just spaced it out when I give out the wrenches. My wrenches, I love my wrenches. I got to have y'all. So this is when he was 18 when this happened. This is the building. This is the GM building. This is the internal part of the building. Y'all can see how immaculate this is. Yeah, hang on. Let me see if I can't do it a different way. It's because it's StreamYard, y'all. StreamYard hates me. Urgh. We'll try to do it like this. Hang on. And what I'll do is I'll upload that video as well. I'll put it on as an upload so you guys can watch it. But hopefully, y'all know StreamYard be temperamental. I don't even know what's going on with this damn thing. It should have audio. That is so frustrating, man. StreamYard always be doing its own thing. Yes, he's talking. He's explaining. Can I turn on closed caption? I don't think I can on here. But I don't want y'all to have to. Let's see. Is it audio? It says my audio is on. Turn the subtitles on. Does that work? No, that ain't gonna work. Let's see. So you was reading chat when you said your stepdaughter was killed in Antioch. I'm sorry. Yes, yes. And the real shitty J is my son. He's in here with us. She was given a hot shot in a hotel in Antioch, and her name was Danielle. And her murder still walks free. It's a really bad story. It's a really messed up story. It has audio. I can hear a little with my phone louder at 200%. That is so frustrating. I don't know what is going on with that. That is so frustrating, man. What is wrong? Because it's not muted and it's at 100. Let me get through this. I'm going to pull it up on his Facebook, y'all. That is so frustrating. Hopefully Facebook will let the audio come through. If it don't got no audio, y'all let me know. But like I said, I'm going to upload this video so y'all can see the video. So, because it's really interesting. I mean, he walks you through the building. StreamYard all the time. messing with me. Y'all know that. If it ain't me muted, it's muting my audio. And I've got it pulled up. It's just that I can't add it right now to the thing because I made a choice to buy a Mustang and the brakes went out on it. Cost me an arm and a leg to get them fixed. So that's so frustrating. Ooh, that makes me angry that it's not working. I done put it all together for y'all to hear and see. Here we go. All right, hang on. Let's see if I can get this one to work. Come on now. Look, why is it doing that? Come on. All right, so we're gonna do it a different way. I'm gonna take this one down because since I don't want to play fair, show your leg. What you talking about? My knee? Girl, my knee looks so bad. Yeah, it's y'all can hear the mute my mic. Wait, let's see if that works. So if it works like this, then we'll play it like this. If not, I've got it pulled up on Facebook. I'm already muted. I'm gonna mute myself. Y'all tell me if y'all got sound. Share the screen. Because I'm having to pull it up in a window because I downloaded it. I got it right here. Hang on.
Here I am again, y'all, at the Renaissance Center, the ground level, ground floor where Jimmy Hoffa was buried. Coming around to where he's buried at, coming out of 200, Tower 200, and getting ready to enter into Tower 300. As you can see, it's spectacular inside the Renaissance Center. That's the exit doors where the cement truck came in at to bury him. In the burgundy 1975 Mercury Marquise on July 30th, 1975. Getting ready to go inside here now to where Hoffa's buried at. Can't see much because my camera don't reflect through this glass, but that's where the infamous hard hat is for one of the construction workers that killed Jimmy Hoffa. Now you're looking at the actual location of where Jimmy Hoffa is buried at in Tower 300 of the Renaissance Center in Detroit, downtown Detroit. This circle here that you see, the circumference of the circle, all around this area here is, as you can see the line there, is the circle where he was buried at. It's the pillar, actual pillar, the top of the pillar where he's located at. This is the ground floor level. Now, right here, I'm standing directly on top of Hoffa's grave. Right here. He's right up underneath this ground floor level, about 8 feet deep.
And this pillar right here in Tower 300.
Hopefully y'all was y'all able to hear it that time? Hopefully you was. Hope y'all was able to hear it that time. Let's see, I'm gonna go through chat real quick and then I'm going to play the History Channel clip. Let's see. That's everybody saying hi, hello. Hopefully y'all had sound. Let me know if you had sound. Because I loaded it into StreamYard. I don't know why I didn't think about that to start with. Because I'm tired. I hurt my knee. So I'm not thinking real clear. I apologize. Let's see. I know I've seen some questions in here. Music City Mom, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you coming in. Um, yeah, he was supposed to be talking about. I think that we fixed it. Yeah, you definitely want to rewind to the beginning. And like I said, I'm going to get permission to play the podcast. It was a really good podcast. It has audio. Let's see. If my son's still in here, he'll have to remind me. I believe because he was born in 2004. It was 2012. Motel 6 in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I've had a pretty traumatic life. Like I said, I raised my kids in Nashville. Oh, how is my leg? See, I can't even read y'all. My leg hurts. Let me tell you what. Like it hurts. It hurts. See, he says you may need to open it as a window in Streamlab. That's why I didn't even think about that. And I can't run OBS and Streamlab at the same time or StreamYard because StreamYard don't like me. And Streamlab, I ain't figured out how to bring people up on a panel yet. Yes, we had sound. Woo woo, we had sound. I love it. Shauna said thumbs up. Kit says that's crazy, isn't it? Isn't it? And we don't want to do any kind of evasive. We just want to go in and run a ground penetration over the top of it. All right. There's the alien. He's still in here. Did we lose Worm? When in 2011 when we lost Worm? Jay? I think so. Something like that. Let me play this other video and then I'll talk about her since we have that whole incident going on in the Ville. Because they're probably going to hit me with copyright because of the music. So I'm going to talk over it. But for those of y'all that don't know him, that's Lawrence Fishburne. This is History's Greatest Mysteries. And let me know if there's sound on this one.
Detroit, Michigan, 1975. The center of both the U.S. auto industry and of organized labor. It's also the last known location of renowned former Teamster president, Jimmy Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa is a legend within the labor movement.
Thank you, Far.
He is a true champion of workers' rights. He's known all over the country.
Hoffa's been involved with labor unions since running his first strike as a teenager.
By the age of 14, he had to
Power.
support his family, loading and unloading strawberries, working under these terrible conditions. And he finally kind of has enough. And he organizes his fellow workers. They decide they're going to stop loading and unloading these strawberries and just let them sit out there and bake in the hot sun. Management's washing their strawberries, kind of molder on the dock. They cave. I think this is where Hoffa really sees the power of the people, the power of organizing. He was successful in his very first time out at 14 years old, and people noticed.
By 1957, he's risen to president of the Teamsters, but his climb comes with challenges.
A rival union appears in Detroit competing for the same workers as the Teamsters, and they gain so much ground that eventually Hoffa turns to the mafia for help.
Specifically, New York's powerful Genovese crime family.
By forming this alliance with the mafia, the Teamsters, they win their battle, but it comes at a price. The mafia guys that he forms an alliance with, they're expecting access to the Teamsters pension fund in return. The Teamsters pension fund is like a blank check for the mafia, their own personal bank. Hoffa has a 14-year run with the Teamsters, working hand in hand with the mafia the whole time, but that deal is eventually his undoing. Hoffa is indicted for a number of charges related to mob involvement with the Teamsters. Hoffa goes to prison, and he's out of the union, but the mob remains.
In December 1971, President Nixon commutes Hoffa's sentence with one stipulation. He can't manage any labor organization until 1980.
By 1973, Hoffa's already plotting to regain the presidency of the Teamsters.
There's just one stumbling block. While in prison, Hoffa has run afoul of the Genovese family. And on July 30th, 1975, he waits in the parking lot of the Marcus Red Fox restaurant, hoping to make amends.
He's there for a meeting with associates of the Genovese crime family. He wants to talk to them about returning to run the Teamsters Union. The mafia has control of the Teamsters these days, and they really don't want Jimmy Hoffa back in charge, but they agree to the meeting. Problem is, they're late.
Witnesses see Hoffa pacing and making calls on a nearby payphone. After nearly an hour of waiting, a red sedan pulls up. Hoffa gets in and is never heard from again. At 7 a.m. the next day, Hoffa's wife calls her children to say their father never came home. And by 7:20 a.m., Hoffa's assistant finds his car unlocked in the restaurant parking lot.
As soon as Jimmy Hoffa is reported missing, the FBI gets involved. They're going to investigate the case.
Agents start at Hoffa's office.
His office appointment book says TG, 2 p.m., Red Fox. Red Fox obviously refers to the Marcus Red Fox restaurant. TG refers to Tony Giacalone, known as Tony Jack. Tony Giacalone is a high-ranking member of the Detroit Mafia, and in many ways, Giacalone is Hoffa's liaison to the underworld. In order for Hoffa to once again become president of the Teamsters, he has to work things out with guys like Tony Giacalone. So they set up a sit-down, try to work things out.
But when the FBI questions eyewitnesses, they learn that Giacalone never showed up. So who's in the car that picks up Jimmy Hoffa?
Not long before 3 o'clock, there are eyewitnesses who see a maroon car, either a Lincoln or Mercury, pull up. It's unclear exactly who was in the car. According to the eyewitnesses, he gets in of his own accord, so there's no struggle. Doesn't seem like it was a kidnapping.
I worked at the Copacabana nightclub in New York. I was a busboy. The mafia guys, Frankie Carbo, Luigi Palermo, Tony Salerno, and Tony Provenzano. They used to come in a lot. I stole bottles of booze from the bar and I brought it to them. And they were very big tippers. I liked them a lot. They were nice guys.
One day, a Genovese family bigwig offers him a new opportunity.
I was busy working, and Fat Tony called me and he said, "Friday's your last day here." I said, "Why? I'm trying so hard to do a good job." He says, "As of Monday, you got a new job. You're going to be the driver for Jimmy Hoffa." Now, I didn't know Mr. Hoffa, but I knew his reputation. And when they said that, I got scared. Mr. Hoffa was very tight with the mafia, and the go-between was Fat Tony Salerno. First time I met Mr. Hoffa, I opened up the door and I said, "Good morning, Mr. Hoffa." She said, "Are you Marvin?" I goes, "Yes, sir." This is a very good start. Excellent. Remember, it's Mr. Hoffa or sir. Scared the hell out of me.
Hoffa conducts much of his business from the car, and Elkind hears everything.
The guy is low on the food chain. He's kind of an errand boy, but he's sitting there in the front seat, right in front of Jimmy Hoffa, day in and day out. You can only just imagine the kind of things that he heard.
When Elkind starts working, Hoffa has 2 rules.
One rule, I never want you to be late. I don't want to be kept waiting. The cardinal rule is, what you hear in this car stays in this car.
Mm-hmm.
If anything that you hear in this car gets out, you won't be around the next morning. Do you understand me, Marvin? I said, yes, I do, sir. This is very good.
Today, Elkind is ready to break one of those rules.
Flagstar Bank believes in something called the human interest rate. It inspires financial solutions made for you.
We don't do ads around here. We'll let the little ad play because I don't like ads. I think Michael putting
Buffalo sauce, hot honey flip.
still got ads. And I'll go back through chat in a minute, guys. You guys know I always like to shout out my chat, and we'll talk about my daughter a little bit.
A 2-man and a truck.
Come on with the ads. I don't want to skip through no bunch of it and miss it. Looks like we're going to have a whole handful of ads. Get on with the ads.
Quality.
We don't want to listen to your ads.
Losing sight of yours that fuels an obsession of our own. And after 75 years, when a normal day so did our day.
Until his former
Power. They really take pride in what they do.
Like us.
Yeah, just look at all these photos.
Oh, trying to get Pella.
In the 47 years since his disappearance, Jimmy Hoffa's whereabouts remain a mystery. Until his former driver, Marvin Elkind, says he knows, and that everyone's been looking in the wrong place.
There's no doubt in my mind I know where Mr. Hoffa's body is.
After Hoffa's picked up by the red car, what happens next?
According to Elkind, he's shot to death at a nearby house, stuffed into the trunk of a car, and they've already decided exactly where to put him.
Mr. Hoffa is buried in the concrete of the Renaissance Center, which is in downtown Detroit, right across the road from the Omni Hotel.
Y'all just heard it
The
first.
Renaissance Center is mid-construction at the time Hoffa disappears.
Under the cover of the night, in the trunk of a car, they drove Mr. Hoffa to the Renaissance. They put him in the planks and poured the concrete on top of him.
The next day, practically every union carpenter in Detroit is there just building right on top of him, completely oblivious. I mean, what a place to put union hero Jimmy Hoffa. The mob really does have a sick sense of humor sometimes.
And according to Elkind, it's that same sense of humor that gives away the mob's secret.
In 75, we had a big convention in Detroit, and the convention took place at the Renaissance. Tony Provenzano was there.
Tony Pro, the Genovese boss, who had a prison feud with Hoffa.
He's walking past the construction site where they're pouring concrete footings every day.
Tony Pro turned to everybody and said, guys, say good morning to Mr. Jimmy Hoffa. We looked at the fresh concrete and we all knew exactly what he meant. All the top brass were laughing. That was all the proof I needed.
Elkind says this all could have been avoided if Hoffa had just listened to him. Marvin's kept in touch with the Genovese family, and he's heard that Hoffa's a target.
Marvin wants to have a sit-down with Hoffa. He wants to warn him that certain people aren't happy. He knows they're going to take him out.
Shortly before he goes missing, Hoffa meets with Elkin.
Mr. Hoffa didn't realize that he was not the number one man anymore. I said, Mr. Hoffa, they don't want you to be president. There was no question if he ran, he would get elected. The mafia had to do something about it, and that's why they had him killed. I told Mr. Hoffa what the word was. Mr. Hoffa told me, Marvin, my people will never harm me. Mr. Hoffa went missing, and immediately the concrete was poured. Nobody has ever seen him again.
Hoffa thought he was untouchable, that he had an army of thousands of blue-collar workers behind him. But when the mob wants you out of the way, not even an army can protect you from a few capos with guns.
In 2016, another witness steps forward to back up Elkin's story.
Former corrections officer Michael Yarbrough claims to have actually witnessed Hoffa's burial at the Renaissance Center. Yarbrough says that at 3:20 p.m., half an hour or so after Hoffa is picked up at the Marcus Red Fox restaurant, he's walking past the construction site and he hears a struggle. He looks and he sees a cement truck, a 1975 maroon Mercury Marquis, and two guys pushing Jimmy Hoffa into a huge hole where a pillar is going to be built. Apparently, a third guy sees Yarbrough snooping and runs up and says, hey, you better keep moving or you're going to be next. So he runs out of there and he hides until they're gone.
But once again, without a body, the Renaissance theory remains impossible to prove.
It's a major supporting pillar of one of the most iconic and recognizable buildings in Michigan. They're never going to dig that thing up.
But we don't want to dig it up.
After a 7-year investigation, Jimmy Hoffa is declared legally dead by a Michigan judge. But when the FBI publicly releases a report called the Hoffa's Memo, detailing the leads they followed in the case, one line jumps out. No evidence has been developed to date which would prove that James R. Hoffa is either dead or alive. After years of theories on his death, is it possible that Hoffa is still alive?
6 months into the investigation, the FBI produces this really important document known as the Hoffa's Memo.
It's a veritable who's who of mafia names. It reads like a Hollywood script with every mobster you've ever heard of involved. Tony Pro, Tony Jack, Fat Tony, the Irishman, every mobster you've ever heard of, they're listed in the Hoffa's Memo.
And while the memo is full of names, it's lacking in evidence.
Eventually, the investigation leads to a grand jury. They identify 95 people that they want to testify before the jury, but almost everyone takes the fifth.
This memo lists so many people and so many theories, and in the end, after each story, it says we can't corroborate any of this. Maybe it's this, but we can't prove it. Maybe it's that, we can't prove it. It just goes around and around.
Yep. So right there, y'all see the History Channel. The History Channel. And now, Mr. Yarbrough is a friend of our channel. He reached out to me on Facebook. He has been on a couple of my other fellow podcasters that do the 13th Murder Billboard out of Tennessee. And I'm assuming that's how he found me, was through one of the private groups. I got a message wanting to know if I was interested in giving him a place to tell his story. Well, those of y'all that are family here at the channel and those of y'all that are new, that will learn that this is a safe place for victims, for families, for the voiceless. And that's what we do, is we give a voice to the voiceless. This man has nothing to gain. I've sit for hours over the past 3 weeks, and I have done research, and I have watched videos. I have watched the mother of an eyewitness. She was there, watched him get thrown in a car. The same car that was discussed here tonight. Do your own research, build your own opinion, but understand this man has nothing to win. He just wants closure. This is not somebody that just, off the street came up with some wild story. This man witnessed the most famous missing case in the world. And he came here to tell us his story. He's been on Fox News. He's been on the History Channel. He has screamed at the mountaintops. The next time we have him on panel, guys, I'll put the same week notification out so you have a week to know that next Sunday will be when we'll be together and we'll talk about this man's history. His history is phenomenal. The things that he has seen will blow your mind. He is a witness in Jimmy Hoffa's murder. He is a witness in a serial killer. This man has nothing to gain. He just wants closure for himself. And Hoffa still has family and children that are still alive. And unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard of Jimmy Hoffa. You've heard all the crazy stories about him being in the Hoover Dam and he's in the Everglades and he's under the stadium and, all this other mess. And it's just mess. And like I said, if you've ever held cremation, somebody that's been cremated, I don't care how hot that incinerator is. It's never all gone. And like Kit brought up acid. Okay. So we know with, y'all know my favorite cannibal. We know that Jeffy had his bucket right there in his drum right there in his bedroom. And they still found remains. The human body is extremely hard to get rid of. You can feed it to pigs. But you know what? What goes up must come down. What goes in must come out. And all of that doesn't get demolished. All right, let's go back through some comments here. Let's see. Mr. Sunshine says, we are going to find him. Eventually we are, because I'm not going to give up. I've pulled resources, all of my resources. I've spent 3 weeks reaching out to people. He has become a legend. That is facts. See, why can't we see Mr. Sunshine? I could chat. When you see highlight, it's probably my internet. Y'all have to remember I'm on. Oh, he came in late. He was lurking in the bushes. He was lurking in the bushes. He got it from me, apparently. Y'all know I be lurking in the bushes. You never know where I might be. I'd be lurking all off in your bushes. Kissy was sunshine, and he says he just came in, Kit. Weird. Now you can see him. He is my bionic man. For those of y'all that don't know, he's a survivor, and he's my concrete guy too. So I sat for probably 2 hours one night drilling him on concrete. And he is getting better every day. Yesterday, he walked down the driveway. Super proud of that. So a certain article depends on who writes it. If he was put in acid. Right. And, you got to think that the mob is still around. Go to Las Vegas. The Luxor. There's another good one. Do some research on who owns the Luxor. The mob never left. They built with the whole East Coast and spread out west. Definitely make sure you hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. I turned subscriber mode off, so that way, if I don't know, I just got to feeling kind of funny about it, and I don't know. I guess if you don't want to be subscribed to the channel, but you wanted to hear Michael's story, you're welcome to chat. So I did turn that off so everybody can chat. See, he's trying to get glory with mind on this case and history books. As it gets better, we will be driving up there. Exactly, we will be going up there, and I am working on getting a LiDAR pulled together so we can get just do some ground penetration. We just want to go over the top. Now, if we find a void, all I want to make is a pinhole. Just a little pinhole. That's all I want to make is a pinhole. Because all we need is a little bit of DNA dust. Let's see. Mind the Monsters links, Discord. Yes, that is my Discord. If you guys are not in my Discord, definitely make sure you get on my Discord. Does Michael have a channel? No, he does not have a channel. He's been on several podcasts. He's been on some of the for those of y'all that don't know, there is a whole different part of YouTube. And I actually found it through John Gotti's daughter. Angel Gotti actually has a channel, and there's a whole mob YouTube crew, like a whole mob YouTube crew, grandkids, sons, daughters, that all have channels. Pretty interesting channels. Duckin' Felonies, welcome in, my love. Duckin'. Duckin' came in to hang out. Kids showing some love. Mississippi Granny coming in to show some love. He used to be Duckin' Felonies. I know that's right. He got slowed down real quick like a brick wall. Except it was a car on I-4. No pun intended. What a great speaking voice. I wish I was articulate. I sound like a like to a mush mouth. Yeah, sometimes I get my tongue, girl, I'll be sitting here muted. And I got that country voice too. So y'all know I get angry. You ever come into an angry live where I'm up on my soapbox ranting? I be up on my soapbox and that country be coming out. He lived in Detroit back then. Yes, he did live in Detroit. He lived outside of Detroit. He had just had a son, and his sister, he was going to go to college, and his sister encouraged him, that there was work up there. They were building the Ford building, and that's what the building originally was the Ford building. They were building the building. They were looking for help, so he went in there to get help to see if he could get a job. And he stumbled upon this. This is an 18-year-old kid, scared out of his mind. Listen to you ever hear somebody being unalived? You don't forget those screams. That's something that lays in your mind. You close your eyes at night and you replay that tragedy in your head. Let's see, yeah. I heard of the stadium one. So he's buried under the stadium. He was dumped in the Everglades here in Florida. When I was a kid, the big one you would always hear is in the Hoover Dam when they were building it. There's like 7 of them, I think, altogether. He was incinerated. There's 6 or 7 of them altogether. It's just, anybody that can come up with their own story. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Let's end violence facts. You guys can join me on Facebook. Hit that link. The mob is always alive and functioning. They are. You got to think that you got to take into you got to go back to those times. Go back to those times you had the prohibition going on. You had when the mob, they come over here, Sicilians, that when they come over here, they came over here with money and purpose. They own the trash companies in New York. They own, so many businesses, and it's spread across. And if you know anything about Chicago is violent to this day. Chicago ain't changed much. It's a good place to die. Mecky, love some Mecky. You're fine. I know Frankie was alive. I'm sorry I missed this. I had talked about it for weeks. Yeah, just a replay crew, please, please, please replay. I know Frankie was live. I don't know if she forgot that I was going to do the live tonight. So, Chris Cumbo. See, I wish I could get like the best hugger at CrimeCon besides Bethany, which is, you guys see Vlad here on my wall. Brian Eaton, if you're listening to this, I'd love to have your little good hugging self on this. That would be awesome. My Aussie, I've missed you. Right. We all love some Far Q around here. She was fooling with the cats, and then she lost lost internet. Fancy meeting you here. You've heard of the crematory? Yeah, so you had all these crazy stories that came out, and that was one of the Sword Creek, depending on who you believe, but many mobs own cremation and funeral places, right? So they owned a lot of businesses. And you have to think the union, if you look back and you look at the research of the union and how, the union was built, this man was a president of the union. He was a true Robin Hood. Like, I'm not saying that all mobsters are bad, and I'm not saying all mobsters are good, because you have to think these guys had to have the ability to be cold blooded killers. Their women, their women were very strong women. Those women were very determined women. They were dressed beautifully. They were shown like trophies, and they were also very strictly managed because it was an organization and a business, and is to this day. Nothing has changed. The world gets older, but it repeats itself. Time repeats itself. Think about the cowboy days. Think about the cowboy days. In the beginning, we had no law. We had no law. So you had people running around and killing each other and, hanging each other and all this other stuff. How has that changed today? How has any of that changed today? Has it really changed today? If you have a true crime channel, you're a sub or you're a mod of a true crime channel, what do? We swim in the minds of monsters. Hence the channel name. I raised my kids in Nashville, Tennessee. If Jay's still in here, what's the other one, Tater? He don't come in very often. He's got his own thing going on. He'll tell you he was raised in Nashville. Where he was raised at in Nashville was home property. You could stand in the front yard and look into the backyard. There was a standing outhouse. If you look to the right, you can see the Batman building. If you go down to the main road, you can watch prostitutes. I'm not kidding you. I lived in Las Cruces, New Mexico for 5 years. Shitty J was a toddler when we lived out there. I've seen things that will curl your brain. Right here in DeLand, Florida, in 95, I think it was, we were walking to Winn-Dixie. Most horrible smell I ever smelled. Oh, I'll never forget it because that trauma stays with you. We were walking over a little bridge. We walk over the little bridge, and I'm like, what the hell is that? Oh my God. It was this guy that was ballooned. Okay? If he had exploded, I probably would have died right there. I'll never forget that smell. Never. Never will forget that smell. And Music City Mom, if you're still in here, I'll talk about my daughter a little bit. So my daughter was my stepdaughter. Her name was Daniela. She was a beautiful person. She was a beautiful mess. She was a drug addict, but she was a mom. She did the best that she could in the times that she lived in. If you look it up, back in 2008, I want to say it was 2008, there was a apartment fire in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. She stood there and watched police officers and firemen watch the apartment building burn while there was 4 children screaming from the window. So my stepdaughter goes over to the firemen and says, "What, are y'all not going to do anything?" She climbs the side of the building, starts grabbing the kids and throwing them down to people. The news was there. The news is interviewing her and asking her, what made you do that? And she told them they weren't going to do anything. They were standing there watching it happen. Do you know that Nashville police arrested her for a warrant after she saved them babies' lives? I backed the blue when they need to be backed. When I stood there and watched my stepdaughter be arrested in person, I stood there and watched her be arrested after she just saved them kids' lives. But she was a known troublemaker in the area. So that's what she got looked at as, was a known troublemaker, a known drug addict. So she had, let me count and see the 3 boys, Booger, Trinity. She had 8 kids altogether. 2 of them passed away at Vanderbilt. They were twin girls. She lived a hard life. She did a whole lot of drugs. So she brings this asshat home one day, and his name was Sean. She brings this asshat home one day, and instantly, those of y'all that know me know I'm Native American. You can see by my cheeks here. My great grandmother was the chief's daughter. I'm Mississippian and Irish. That's where the red hair comes from. She fell in love with this idiot. She married him. We wouldn't hear from her. She'd bring the kids over and drop them off, which they were better with us at the time. So she would bring the kids over and drop them off. Well, wasn't nothing that was abnormal to have the kids there, or at least 3 or 4 of them. I have 3 grandsons that we call the O's. Their dad had come and got them and took them to Chicago. For a little while, I had her daughter. I kept her for a little while. And then you wouldn't hear from Worm. Like, it was normal not to hear from her for days at a time. So it wasn't abnormal not to hear from her. So they get a hotel, Motel 6, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Antioch. If you know anything about the area, it's a bad area. Like I say, when I say Tennessee, Nashville's my town. Nashville's my town. I was born and raised in Paducah, Kentucky. I moved to Nashville when I was 16 years old. Lived there for over half of my life. We get a phone call. The police are there. This flippin' idiot gave my stepdaughter a hot shot and laid in bed with her for 6 hours before he called law enforcement. Told law enforcement what he done. He walks free today. For those of y'all that haven't seen, JLR did a video today. He's actually the only one I've seen report on it. Is the sheriff, the current sheriff of Nashville's son, shot 2 police officers because they were investigating the stolen vehicle he was allegedly driving. He's on the run. Now, living in Nashville, I can tell you right now, I'm not surprised. My uncle was a police officer in Kentucky. For my whole life, the man was a police officer. His son, my cousin, got away with anything he done. Probably should spend his life in jail. But because his daddy was a deputy, he didn't spend no time in jail. Until my uncle was transporting a female to Bowling Green, to Pee Wee Valley, which is the women's prison in Kentucky, pulled off on the side of the road, and he had his way with her. If you look up the Heath High School shooting, my uncle's the little short, bald cop that takes the little prick that shot them kids up in Heath High School that morning into the courthouse. Bet me. Bet me, baby, because I ain't got no reason to lie. So I know how it is to be a cop's son. After that happened, my cousin started spending time in jail because there was nobody to get him out of it. My prayers go out to their families. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I know it's going on almost 3 hours, so I did not intend for it to be this long. But Music City Mom did ask about my stepdaughter because I had brought her up in JLR's chat earlier. And I felt like it was important to tell her story as well, because what were we talking about tonight? Building a narrative. Building a narrative and law enforcement not listening. I have reached out to retired agents. I have reached out to FBI. I've reached out to other people that own equipment that we need to be able to do this search. For those of y'all that know, Mr. Sunshine was just through a really bad wreck, died twice on me. Now it's Kit said the Bionic Man. I'm going to Michigan. Because for those of y'all that don't know, these stories that get brought to me, for some reason, there's always a connection. My mama was born in 1961 in the back of a police car in Chicago, Illinois. It's front page of the paper. My grandmother was a red light woman. My grandfather was born and raised in Michigan, in Detroit. There's always that little connection. But as always, guys, thank you for being here. Much love. Love all my mods, all my beautiful wrenches. Love you, love you, love you. Love all my subs. I'll tell him. He's trying to find something to eat. He's like a little mouse. If y'all can't hear him in the background, he's over here meddling. Now he's getting him some ice, but the microwave and everything going on. Oh, you better not be coming for my Mountain Dew. And I didn't even hide it from him, y'all. He'll be having it in a minute. He's a mess. And Becky says she's still waiting on her foot race, too. He walked down the driveway yesterday. Did really good. About made me a nervous damn wreck. Oh, Lord. He about made me a nervous wreck. But guys, love you as always. And what do I always say? We know that this ain't normal people. These are monsters. And what causes people to take a man and dump him in a hole and cover him with concrete and let his family and his kids wonder where he is? And then let an 18-year-old man get into his 60s and not have closure?
Could have been. Let's see, I don't know. Let me think. Let me knock on Mr. Noggin. Who could trick us into doing that? Could have been Satan.
And when you can't get nobody to listen, and you can't get the Hoffa task force to listen, what do you think that makes them look like? Because I know what it makes them look like. Just my opinion. But as always, guys, thanks for being here. Much love to you all. I appreciate you, each and every one. Always know you're appreciated. Always know my chat is a safe place. You're welcome. If you need a missing poster, True Crime with Sunshine, hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on Facebook. True Crime with Sunshine Missing Posters. It's my Facebook group. I'm not hard to find. I know we had Anthony in here tonight. Much love, Anthony, if you're still hanging in here. Ed is still missing. Could be anywhere in Florida, Indiana, Illinois, or Tennessee. Jimmy Hoffa is still missing. Help me be a voice. Help me give Michael a voice. A safe place. To where these other podcasters have disrespected this man and put their own opinion in there and told him he's not telling the truth. What does this man have to gain from what he saw? What he sees when he closes his eyes to sleep at night? What does he have to gain? Nothing but closure and a good night's rest. Love you guys. You're awesome. Thank you always for being here. There's my email if you need a flyer. If you just need somebody to talk to, hit me up. Might take me a little while, but I always respond. On the replay, thank you for covering it. Can't wait to hear it. It's an amazing story, guys. You really want to listen to it. Thank you. Great love. I'll go back and watch. Thanks, everyone's love and light. Hey, love and light to you, babe. Thank you for all tuning in. If you came in late, do the replay crew. Do the replay crew. Don't forget to leave some touch DNA on that like button and share out this video. You like you like that? You like that? Yeah, I make you like that, don't you? Like my little ass. Cause my mama always told me everybody likes a little ass. Nobody likes a smart ass.